This is a full fiver. We have 2 fivers in a row. 2 points make a line. We're fiver forever. Fiver for life.
I love the fiver.
I love the fiver.
You're saying we're fiver lifers?
I'm saying we're fiver in American Tail.
I was just about to say that. That was right coming out
Sean,
of my
that's
mouth.
really funny. It's really funny that you say that.
It's almost like a Fievel joke wasn't made.
It's really good.
A mere 5 minutes ago.
It's so perfectly
minutes
crafted.
ago. 5 whole minutes
Chris
ago.
is so upset right now.
That was like rising through my esophagus.
What's funny is I reached over and I plucked it out of you.
It's October 29th, 2014. No one?
This is Idle Thumbs 181.
Nope.
I'm Sean
Nope.
Vanneman.
Incorrect.
Fuck me. What is it?
It's 182. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Sean Vanneman.
I'm Nick Breckon.
And I'm Danielle Riendo.
And I'm Jake Rodkin.
Yay.
That was a disaster.
That's what happens when five
Fiver's
people...
falling apart.
Yep.
The fiver goes
Collapse of the
west.
fiber.
Yeah.
Good.
There have been so many video games played by this collection of half of 10 people.
It's true. Quite a few games, in
I
fact.
can feel it. I can feel it in my bones.
I think.
can feel it in my
Are there
soul.
actually a high number or just a lot of overlap? Let's find
I'm
out,
going
shall we?
to start with a game that I played quite a bit over the past few days because
Okay.
nobody else here has played it, so we'll move
Desert Golf.
on. No, this is a new game to the podcast.
Is it? It's not a new release.
No, it's not. I played Payday 2.
Oh.
Guys, Payday 2 is a good game.
Wow.
It's a good video game. It has bad UI to get you into the good video game, and then once you're in the video game, there is some bullshit, but in mass, it is a good video game.
Okay, what do you do in Payday 2?
Yeah, what is Payday 2 about? It's a multiplayer like heist game, right?
Payday 2 is a multiplayer heist game, not unlike something like Left 4 Dead, where 4 people like team up to compete against, like to fight against an AI that's working against it to accomplish a task. And you are just, it's like Heat, you know. I think Heat was sort of like that film, the Michael Mann film from the
99 or something?
yeah,
95.
late to mid 90s.
Oh, 95, really? Okay.
Yeah, which is great, and you should totally watch. I feel like that movie seeded the idea. I guess also like all the dead presidents. I guess seeded the
Oh,
idea.
yeah.
All the presidents
Oh,
matter.
excuse me.
Oh,
Dead
president's
president.
dead.
Excuse me. Lucky number 11.
But those movies came out in the 90s and sort of planted this like sub genre of people in masks like robbing banks that then The Dark Knight totally
How can you forget
owned.
Point Break?
Also Point Break.
on that
Holy
list?
fuck. No. So that I guess that's actually the seed.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah, I think
and
more so
Dead
than
That's
that.
like
Presidents.
92,
Dead Presidents and Heat
93.
are like
something around
the
Yeah.
little first 2 tendrils off of Point Break. You're totally right, Point Break.
Just, you know,
Yeah.
dear to my heart.
But
that
that's-
movie.
That seemed like you were calling her
Yeah,
that.
that's...
As a, totally right, Point Break. Nailed
Junior
it.
Mance
That's
is a
my
Point
name.
Break pull. Yeah. But it's in that. I mean, and then what's funny? Sorry, this is a sidetrack. But like,
That's okay.
The Dark Knight totally opens with
Yes.
a Point Break.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
It
A Point Break
never-
situation. Yeah.
It does. It opens with a Point Break situation, but with never a wink to the camera, which I think is intrinsic to a Christopher Nolan film.
Yeah, I would say that the
Even if
slogan
there's-
of that Batman series is never a wink to the camera.
Exactly.
Yes.
Never. Where are the drugs? Who's that a wink? No, of course not. I have to wear black makeup underneath his mask that nobody ever comments on. Did you notice that? Batman has black eye makeup on underneath the mask, and nobody ever mentions it. Nobody's ever like, you're wearing a fucking
Well, they're afraid to
shitload of
mention
blush
it.
or whatever.
Would you mention that to Batman?
But, man, where
How
was
do you
the
point
scene?
that out?
Where was the scene when Christian Bale tears
think
off the
that
mask?
was-
He's just,
Oh, what a day! And it's just like,
this looks like a raccoon.
Yeah.
But everybody else wears makeup.
I'm just
The
imagining.
whole world wears makeup.
Have you guys seen
That's
the
what he
video?
says when Alfred's like, "What is that?"
All my best friends wear this stuff.
Have you guys
I thought
seen?
even as like a metaphor. The whole world wears makeup, Alfred.
You're doing the voice still with the mask off. You just feel the makeup on your eyes.
Have you guys seen the video of the New Zealand politician who's being interviewed about his opposition to National Hoodie Day?
Oh my
And he's
God,
wearing-
yes.
He's wearing a KKK
Jesus.
hood to like demonstrate why hoodies are bad, I guess, or something. It's not. It's not really clear. And
train
he's
wreck.
being interviewed remotely by the anchor, and the anchor's like, "Would you please take off your mask?" And he goes, "Well, why not?" And he takes it off, and he's in full blackface.
Yeah.
Like an orange wig, and the other guy on the interview, the like other talking head being interviewed, is like a professor at Canterbury University who's black, and it is the most uncomfortable, hilarious, horrible news interview you could ever see.
So it's your favorite thing.
So when you said he wears black makeup under there, and
That's the first thing
I
you
was
thought
thinking
of.
You know.
taking off the bat mask and just being blacked up.
Well, the best part of this is that he's really kind of stammering through the interview. It's not like he's this like America, like super like
No, he's not.
extremely
What is
like
America in New Zealand? Zealand.
New Zealand.
He's
I don't
obviously
know.
not media trained.
Yeah, not
He's
media
just a
trained at all. He's
guy.
like, well, you see the thing with the thing and the blah blah blah. Like he's this sort of milquetoast guy who's just doing both of the most
thinks he-
racially insensitive performances like in the known
Like
universe.
combined, like folded into themselves.
He takes off one horribly racist caricature and then has another, and it's just
It's
like
one of the funniest
funny.
things I've ever. I apologize for spoiling this for everyone listening if you haven't already seen it, because I've just robbed you of one of the finest moments of news bullshit that you'll ever see in your life.
it's something to be.
So what do you think about that
Payday
Payday 2?
I think we all know how Payday 2 works at this point.
Yeah, but you're like mask wearing.
Okay, so
like criminal.
and then underneath that mask,
Figuratively.
3 other masks. What's great though
Under
is
that
there is a
blackface.
mask.
There's a
No, I
clown.
swear to God, there is a mask crafting mechanic in the game. Where as you learn plans and have money to build new masks for yourself, you can do that. So
like a nice mask.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely like a nice mask. And a cop runs up to you and rips it off and goes, nice,
Nice
mask,
mask.
and then kills you and he says, game over.
And then you see him
Nice
put on the
mask.
mask.
And they see him put on the mask and he becomes Payday. Yeah.
he becomes Point
Payday
Break.
2.
Yeah. The thing is like it just borrows. There's nothing original about any of that shit in the game when it comes to like being
Sure,
a
it's all
bank robber
tropes.
and-
It's all
yeah,
just-
it's all
yeah.
tropes. But whatever, fuck it, it's fine. The game completely makes you feel like you're 4 people. We were on like TeamSpeak, so it was actually me and 2 other guys. It was Nick Herman from Telltale, my buddy James, and we were on TeamSpeak together playing the game, and it opens up and you just have a map that's blinking with all these jobs that start popping up, and they have difficulties and whatever. When you join one, your party, you can see it, and then you all go into the same job together. And they're like different guys who offer your crew jobs and things like this, and you have a really in-depth skill tree, which I'll talk about in a second. But you start the job, and ours was just like rob this bank, like get into the vault and get the money and get out. Simple, easy.
Did you give the money back? Do you give it back?
No, we took the money and we didn't give it back.
Okay.
No.
That's the way to go.
And that was our plan from the beginning.
I get that.
We didn't. That didn't evolve. We kind of knew we were going to take the money and not give it back.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know. But when you start a match, I was thinking, you can choose your outfits too. But I've only unlocked bulletproof vest and suit, so I'm hoping there's red hoodie. I'm hoping there's a whole collection, a whole closet, a whole ensemble of classic caper outfits.
Just video game attire.
Yeah, video game attire.
So what makes this
Alan
game
Wake
good?
style.
What makes this game good is that it's all the thing.
Alan Wake
is
combo
that
pack.
the game is hard, and it's all the parts of the bank robbing fantasy that aren't just murdering people, even though a large chunk of it, when everything goes to pot, is murdering
people, sure.
like murdering people on like a time cop scale, or no, like time crisis. Sorry,
Yeah.
a time crisis, like
Yeah.
guys popping up behind fucking barrels scale. But
Are those other people or are those AI characters?
they're all AI.
Okay,
it's
so-
like I said
so
when I mentioned Left 4 Dead.
Okay, yeah. But you can also play. Is there a version that's like Left 4 Dead where there's like boss police or
and
something?
you're playing against other people.
Yeah.
Unclear. All we played was hours and hours and hours
Okay,
of the mode that I'm
sure.
describing.
Yep,
So
that's fine.
I feel like if I was a reviewer, I would know that answer. But it's all the parts of the fantasy about a heist that are actually the things that you think about and are really fun. So, and it's very, very, very systemic. So what you're wearing before you put on your fucking bank robber mask and pull out your gun, people respond differently to. So we were robbing a bank, and I'll just like walk you through like our first mission, because there's a ton of missions, and ours we took an easy one to learn the game, and it was hard enough that it took us a while to figure out how to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Where our decision after like fucking it up once was that I would just wear a suit, and Nick and James would wear bulletproof vests and be like a little more kitted up. And before there's this, like, putting on the mask means like I'm gonna do violence, and people around you it's communicating to everything around
Right.
you.
There's no illusion about what's going on. Once
Whether
you have
it's
the
a
mask
security
on.
camera or security guard or a like civilian, it's communicating to all of those different forms. This is a violent creature.
Right.
But before you put the mask on, it's not, unless you get really close to somebody and are weird,
Right.
which is rad.
That's really interesting.
It's a really interesting mechanic. And every one of those things I described, whether it's a security camera,
Is there a need to put your mask on or an incentive to put your mask on?
to start doing crimes, yeah.
So you literally cannot fire your gun until you have a mask on.
Exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So
Interesting.
at first,
If you pull the trigger, will your guy just like slap his mask on instantly, or do you have to
no, it just says like
engage
you
that
cannot
mode?
do violence
Okay,
while
okay,
you're in
right.
this. It just says like
Yeah.
put on your mask to
No
go to
murdering
work,
yet.
basically.
Yeah.
Put on
That's
your
really
mask.
interesting.
You have to hold G, and it takes time.
Okay.
It's cool. Everything is also really time driven in this game, which is nice. So it's like anything you want to do is not just like Half-Life, press E to instantly do the action. It has a little like.
I saw you when you were playing it.
It has a
radio
little, that
time
whistle was a UI, like clock wipe UI.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time.
Right.
So when we started to like knock over this bank, we knew we didn't need to get into their big vault, and the whole premise was that there's like a laser cut, like a big fucking drill in a bed of a truck in the parking lot. So go get that, and then you can do this. So I just walked into the bank in a suit and walked around and saw like, okay, could we get access to the tellers? Where are all the security cameras? Like, okay, that's the manager's office. There's probably a key to like the security, like to the like surveillance office back here. Okay, the stairs are here. This is that. Because all the things that can call the police do so differently. So if a security camera sees you do violence or sees you in the mask, it's gonna like it has a little UI element. It's like in 4 seconds, this is gonna get to the guy in the room who's gonna call the cops. If you go in and tell the tellers to get on the ground and put like zip ties on their hands, they can't hit the panic button. Like pedestrians walking on the street can call the police on their cell phone. So we were like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go in, figure out if I can get into the tellers area, and then I'm gonna hide. The moment you guys break into the back door, put the guard next to here on the ground, like kill the guard. Just fucking shoot him, kill the guard, get the security card, and run in and shut down the security room. I'm gonna be like tying up the tellers, and then I will just tell every single person on the street to get on the ground and bring them inside. And like that's the plan, and you can fucking do it.
That's amazing.
You know, and you can fucking do it. It's hard. It's so hard because the moment somebody's just like calls you see the girl call the cops and like bling, and it says the cops have been called, and you're like, oh no! It's just like, all right, guys, fuck it, plan over,
Time
you
out.
know. And then you have like a laser cut, like a plasma cutting drill working on the vault door. That literally, when I hooked it up the first time, I looked at the time left and it said 6.5 minutes. And I'm like, oh my god, we have to hold off the cops for 6.5 minutes. And it starts with cops and SWAT team and snipers, and they throw fucking poison gas in. And then like the SWAT, like the more hostages you take, the more they change up their shit. Everything about all the heist tropes in a movie are actually systemic.
Right.
Nice.
And it's so fucking fun to react to them as a team. And we've only played the same like one case trying to get it right, or the same one job trying to get it. And we played 2 jobs, I guess, trying to get both of those right for hours and hours and hours. Just like building a plan and like going in. And then the thing that's great about it, each of these jobs has a bit of like randomization to where certain doors are locked. The security room is in a different part of the bank. Like the teller's doors are closed now, and you never know what you're going to get every time you do it. So we went in the first time after thinking we had it totally nailed, and the vault was just in a different place, and the card to get into the security room wasn't there. And we was like, fuck everything! Like, it's perfect.
God, that's so good because that's as though you had planned it,
Yeah, exactly right. It's that Ocean's 11 of like, we've got it all figured out, boys. And then you get in there and you're like, no, we don't.
Nothing.
And then it's just wanton violence, which is fine. Like, whatever. Like I have no problem with the violence in the game, given the context and the setup and the systemic setup. And I cannot wait to play more of it. I cannot wait. It has a bunch of shit about it that's really stupid. Like when things go to hell and just doing like when you're looking at a clock, I like ran over to the plasma drill, and it was like 3 minutes and 45 seconds. And I was telling James and Nick, like, guys, there's almost 4 minutes left. Like, fuck. And just having to kill people for 4 minutes and like hide on the roof and like figure out how to kill less people, and you're running out of ammo and you're running out of health. You're like, oh God, how are we going to make it last? And then I like ran back to the drill after like it said 3 minutes, 45 seconds. And I'm like, okay, it's got to be almost done. And it's like 2 minutes, 55 seconds. Like, what? Like, how is that only 55 seconds of actual real time?
Right.
The game does such a good job of communicating to you when you're in a crisis how a second
time dilation
takes
occurs.
so fucking long.
man.
You're sitting there watching this drill and guys are just pouring in through the doors. It's so good. Yeah. You guys would love it. Like, we have to play it. You guys would really like it. It's really good.
All
the
right.
things that suck about it is that like getting into a match is really confusing. All the UI is really confusing. It clearly wants you to buy DLC, which sucks. Where it's like, get the new Hotline Miami DLC because, and I'm like, I just bought this game. Like, I don't need it.
You didn't get it free? It was free for like 2 days. Payday 2 was.
No, I bought it.
Oh.
I bought it on Steam sale though for $7.
Oh,
so
yeah, okay. That's
I'm
cool.
happy with my purchase.
Cool.
I
Very
talked for a
nice.
while about Payday 2, I guess, but it's fucking awesome.
Sounds cool.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there'll be more Payday.
This is a
2
dumb
talk.
question, but is Payday 2 a first or a third person game?
First person. Sorry.
Okay.
It's a first person shooter. And I mean, it's similar in vein to like a Call of Duty, except like all the like, reload and traversal stuff is much slower. You have body awareness, and it's all just more deliberately paced. It feels more like those Battlefield 1943s or whatever in terms of like how long it takes to reload and how you have to make decisions and things like this.
Mhm.
You can't reload while running and shit like that. When you pick up a giant bag of money, you were the slowest fucker on the planet. And you just have, you have 40 grand in your back.
Does your guy leave little bills floating behind him when he runs when you've got a bag of money on your back?
He does. No, he does not. It's not
You're getting
cartoony
a
at all.
shape
I
if
know.
the bill sort of
But, like,
slowly
your
falls
head,
to the
it's
ground
weird
as the
because
top rolls up.
poignantly
They do this
cinematic.
thing, right? They do this thing with body awareness where if you put a giant thing on your back that you're carrying, it's really strange because they put like permanent
Like
maybe
tilt?
10% Z tilt on your head.
Oh.
So you feel yourself lugging
Oh,
this thing
interesting.
and slow you way down. So you're just walking down the street trying to get to the getaway car, like, and your buddies are protecting you, and you're just like, oh, you bullets are just doof, 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 doof. And you're like, I cannot go any faster because I'm lugging, 110 pounds of bucks. It's really good. It's really
Burden.
fun.
Man. All right.
Yeah.
That was way more fascinating than I would have, because I didn't know anything about this game,
Yeah.
which I guess is shame on me.
I mean, a lot of people know about it because I think it's sold incredibly well on Steam. But
It's just the aesthetic of it is not something that I would have been
Nah, right?
driven to seek out.
yeah, no,
The
it's
clown mask
good. It has a
thing
lot of the
is-
Yeah.
things that we like of just sort of let 40 systems clash into each other and then go, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Like it has a Far Cry 2-ness of that's really nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is the notion of planning a heist formalized at all, or is that just...
Absolutely, yeah. So before
Your
you go into a
blueprints and
heist,
stuff?
after you go into a heist, you can buy
Awesome.
information. You can spend money that is like your permanent currency in the game. Like you don't get more unless you complete missions. And you can spend money to get information about the place you're going, which is more blueprints, more information.
But that
Like-
changes on the random roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
So you can unlock those with money, and then when it starts you on the street, you get dropped off, and nobody's wearing your mask, so
Right.
you can do a whole recon based
Oh,
on the
that's
information
awesome.
you already found.
Yeah.
And that's
Cool.
always forced. There's no just sort of like jump out of the car and guns blazing.
Right.
It's always You choose when
Scope
to
it out.
start doing
Yeah, right.
violence. That's the best thing about the game, is that you choose to put on that fucking mask and go, okay, we're ready to fucking do the next 3 things to accomplish this thing. And you can do 5 seconds of planning, or you can do 5 minutes of planning, or like put everybody in the level to the point where they're like ready to like do their 3 things to get the fuck out and just smash and grab. It was really fucking cool. It's awesome. Yeah. And all of them say like explicitly, which I think is awesome, stealth is an option in this level. Like if you can get through something without killing anybody, it tells you explicitly before you start a mission. And like there's a huge financial penalty for killing civilians, which I think is cool. And civilians like rent-a-cops also count. If they're not official police, it fucking counts. Which is an interesting distinction when you're in a fucking firefight because you fucked up.
Right.
What was the other thing I was gonna say? Anyway, I can't remember, but it's great.
Did you, Sean?
It's the perfect. I have a 79 on Metacritic type of game.
Right.
Like, I can see why people don't like it, because people like, Destiny and Call of Duty or whatever. But like, it's totally there for me.
Have you seen? Did you ever see the alpha video of that game, Due Process?
Yeah, I actually played Due Process at PAX.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like it maybe shares some stuff with what you're
Yeah, I mean, I think Due Process shares a lot of the. Well, Due Process is 4-on-4.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a 4-on-4 multiplayer kind of SWAT game where it's multiplayer, and the whole thing is that you have to plan with your team of 4. Like you have to, every move you make, you have to plan out, because everything is like incredibly deadly, and mistakes are completely fatal. Rounds are over, and like it seems like an incredibly short period of time.
Yeah. It's much more of a competitive game.
Yeah.
Because of those, like
right, it's not
like a round of Payday is going to take a while.
Right.
It takes a long time to get like ruined by the cops, to be killed or whatever, taken into custody. They're very, very I think they're actually very different games.
That makes sense, because they're going for that. They're going for that like heist movie trope stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas Due Process, I think, is actually trying to capture some part of like, this is what an actual tactical operation kind of feels like, and it can go wrong in like 1 second. You're dead.
Despite how cheesy it is to like be lit up by like 4 SWAT members who come around a corner and they're like right in front of you and they shoot you 10 times and you still manage to like live. Like, that's cheesy and stupid and like a weird like hammer space of video game design, but required for 4 minutes later to be lugging a bag of cash down the middle of the street, cops shooting at you, feeling like Val Kilmer in Heat. Right.
Yeah.
You feel like that, even though the cost of that is some video game cheesiness of like 10 guys in a room that's like 5x5 all shooting at you.
Right.
It seems like it works aesthetically though.
Yeah. It's I don't know. Like that's.
It's also not unprecedented in a movie for someone to be shot 3 times in the arm and once in the
it's
stomach and still walk out of
right.
there with a bag full of
Yeah.
money,
It's much
because
more like
movies
that.
are also just as dumb.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Val Kilmer does get shot in that movie and survives.
Yeah. It feels exactly.
makes it away.
Yeah. It feels like a movie
Yeah.
in a way that it's so funny because there's no cutscenes in Heat. The only cuts, I mean, in Payday.
Payday 2.
It's all gameplay.
Yeah. But like the only cutscenes in the game are actual like full FMV dudes acting in cutscenes at the beginning of the game.
Oh yeah,
It has FMV sequences
At the beginning.
Good.
I don't know. This game's getting better by the second.
At the
I
beginning.
know.
But there's no fucking cutscenes in the game. None. And it feels so cinematic. It feels like a fucking movie. Whereas think of a game that like, there's a million games you could mention that have long cutscenes in them that everybody says are quote unquote cinematic and like don't feel like movies. This game feels like a fucking movie.
Well,
It's
it
so
depends,
good.
right? Do you mean like feels like watching a movie, or feels like being the character in the movie?
I mean,
Right?
Exactly
I mean,
right. Like, well, the act of watching is the thing that I would underline there. But the feeling you get from watching Heat is the same feeling you get from playing this game.
sure.
Yeah.
Except for the parts, like the quiet parts.
Because a
where
movie like Heat
Al
is in
Pacino's
itself
betting that
like,
woman. I feel like he's trying to sleep with that woman for like the whole movie.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of like,
He's trying his
She's like,
best.
"Come on."
Yeah.
we just got a baby. Where are the drugs?
It's very Scarface.
Where are the drugs? God, if Al Pacino was the Dark Knight, it'd be great.
Oh my god.
You're tearing this city apart. Are you Al Pacino?
Oh, I would
Anyway.
so watch that.
That's Payday 2.
Do you guys want to talk about space?
Space. The final frontier.
A planet in far space that you
I
drop
would
a
like to go
ship onto.
somewhere. Are we talking about
I'm talking about
Beyond.
civilization.
I was thinking beyond. I was thinking you want to go beyond our
Beyond.
I want to go
space.
beyond Earth. I keep thinking it's called After Earth.
No, that's
That's the other thing.
Was that the Will Smith movie?
Yes.
the
Yeah.
Will Smith / Scientology vehicle.
Oh yes.
After Earth.
With
Yes.
his son.
Yeah.
Jaden.
It could also be Titan AE, which
Champion
stands...
tweeter.
Yes,
Jaden Smith.
yes indeed.
man.
Champion Tweeter is correct.
Champion
King
Batman.
of Twitter.
Yeah.
Tweet Lord.
The Tweet Lord Jaden Smith. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tweet
Smith.
So
Tweet
you guys
Smith.
have both played Beyond Earth.
I think Nick, Jake, and I all played it, right?
Yes.
Have you
You played it
Danielle?
too?
I have not.
You've not.
I
Okay.
got-
Sean, Sean,
let's
you.
hang out on the lobster
you
couch
also
and
have
just
not,
listen.
Sean, right?
Lobster catch time.
I am actually curious, Jake, to hear your thoughts first, because I feel like you just have less civilization kind of associations.
I do.
You're less civilized than the rest.
I was less civilized. Yeah, because I played a lot of Civ 1, and then I basically jumped to Civ 4, which melted my video card. Basically, literally. Nick, you had to mail me a different video card, actually.
Oh, weird.
You
I don't
remember
remember that. No.
I remember that. I remember when a video card showed up at my house that said from Nick Breckon. I'm like, where did you get this GeForce 5, GTX 580? He's like, Nick Breckon sent it to me. He said he had a way better one. Like the most Nick Breckon sentence ever.
Excellent.
For a good thing to show up, and you just have a mythical better one.
It's not a 500. I've still got it. It's a 2 something. It's old.
Ooh.
That was
might be
for
time.
That was for 4 or 5.
5.
5. Okay, you said 4.
Oh, sorry. Civilization 5.
Yeah, Civ 5 was the hex,
grid, the hex.
grid.
Yeah. Civ 5 featuring 6-sided tiles. So I played a little bit of that, and that was the first Civ that I'd played for ages. I think I talked about it on Thumbs when it came out because
I'm sure we all
Yeah, we
did,
talked about it. Yeah.
because yeah. So yeah, I don't know a whole lot about Civ games in general, other than
You know the basic formula.
yeah,
essentially,
and I know that they successfully get their hooks into me, but I don't know entirely what I'm doing. I know when you guys play Civ at this point, you know enough of the meta structure of what Civilization games are that I think you can kind of naturally drive yourself towards objectives. So I just blindly skate through these things and eventually die. But
Yeah.
I've only put a couple hours into Alpha Centauri. It's not that. What the fuck?
It's Alpha Centauri 2.
No, it's not. I don't know.
Beyond Earth.
I never
Earth
played
is
Alpha
Definitely
Centauri.
not. It's Civilization Beyond Earth.
I never played Alpha Centauri.
Beyond Earth.
And I know, to sidetrack from this, I know when they made Alpha Centauri, they wanted to put the Civ name on it, but they didn't own the Civ license.
Right.
Firaxis didn't. And now they've made this game, and I think they wanted to use the Alpha Centauri name on it, but they can't because they only own the Civ license.
Correct.
Because I think EA or someone owns Alpha Centauri.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
EA does. I think.
Anyway, whatever. I don't know what relation this has to anything other than it feels kind of like my experience of playing Civilization 5, except that now the map is all covered up and there's weird aliens marching around outside of my base. But I didn't play enough Civ 5 to feel like I'm missing anything, so this just feels like I'm playing a Civ game for the first time in years, and I'm enjoying it. I've only put a couple hours, and I'm, the usual Civ arc is happening for me, where I have a city that I think is doing really well, and 15 ATVs come rolling into my city, and people come up on the beach before I even have a car. But and I'm signing peace treaties left and right with people, and not
Right.
really knowing
Yeah.
if I can't remember all their faces because
Yeah.
they're not
And
real
they're putting
countries.
a target on your back. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's the guy that signs all the peace treaties. You
Yeah.
don't need to worry about it.
I'm finding it. There's things that I like about it without knowing anything deep about it. I actually do really like that you land on a planet and that it's a completely unknown map and you can't see where you're going.
It makes more fictional sense than Civ technically does.
Right. And I mean, I know if you're in an orbiting spaceship, you could conceivably map the planet before you land, but I don't really care. It just feels like you're in a little pod
There
that
is
lands.
a perk. One of the, at the beginning of the game, one of the things that is different than Civ 5 is you don't just select the civilization. You select, one of 3 factions, but then within that, several different.
I don't know if I did any of that
civilizations sort
stuff.
I didn't either. I realize now.
Oh, really? You probably
fucked
just
up.
clicked the play
'Cause I
button.
just-
I just told the
Yeah.
game, I am
Yeah.
new to this game, just roll
Yeah.
something and drop me into it.
One of the I think there's a stage of that series where one of the benefits you can choose is see the
Expose the map?
expose the
Interesting.
coastlines. Yeah,
But
but anyway,
I also really at least at the beginning of the game, I don't know how terrible this becomes later. I really liked the feeling of seeing creatures generally kind of moving around outside of my city.
I did too.
And only when I started
gonna be
to
an interesting
encroach
test.
and start knocking stuff down did they start actually attacking me. And it was that feels vaguely justified as as creatures of unknown sentience.
Yeah.
As
somebody manifesting their own destiny.
well, and my city center at every turn, if there's sort of aliens nearby, there's a big red light that says attack. You don't have to because they're mostly being benign, but then there's always one guy in another city who's like, I really enjoy that you're not attacking those creatures. They're the natural things here, and they're very important. I'm like, oh, cool, I guess that's fine. Until
Jake would be the best leader if that's why he was like, cool, I guess that's fine. It's an official letterhead.
It's tough because I feel like I'm not only like fictionally on this new planet with all this new stuff, but my experience playing Civ, I'm also totally in the dark when it comes to anything out past a certain point of where this game, like where this specific game is going, sure, but also just where the Civilization series traditionally goes. Like I don't have a good enough sense of the mid game or end game to do anything other than just be like, I'm just going to get beat up 15 times until I eventually learn what I'm doing. But like, I'm enjoying it enough that I'm going to, except for the UI, which I find to be terrible.
Okay,
Oh, no.
okay. I was waiting for that because I couldn't imagine that you would play this game and not notice
I thought
that
the
right
Civ
off.
5 UI was
I would have just,
Okay.
I would have walked out of the
No,
podcast
this is
if there was not a moment where you like just ripped.
I would have
into
walked
this.
out of the podcast if there wasn't a moment of Nick Breckon threatening to walk out of the podcast.
okay, because like, okay, Civ 5's UI I found very understandable. I thought it
Yeah.
felt very
It was
much
fine.
like
It was good.
And it's also just beautiful.
yes,
Yeah, no,
it's
it's gorgeous.
aesthetically great. It felt like it was very thought through for what Civ 5 was trying to do, and like what you could tell that it came from a series with legacy. And then they also just made XCOM, which has a beautiful and coherent science fiction UI from the same studio. And now we're making a science fiction Civilization game, and it looks
Like
just
nothing.
like it looks like a janky Winamp theme or something.
Yeah.
Like, but it like with that usability, like it's just all these little squares, all these little.
Sorry, I heard janky Winamp theme for a minute. I was like, oh, like, like really sort of
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
It really makes the game less pleasurable for me to play. It's
Yeah.
really a bummer.
Yeah.
Because the actual world
I-
looks nice, but like you don't want to interact with any of the, and all of the
Yeah.
UI is also pushed to all of the extreme corners of the screen, which I don't remember in Civ 5 either. I remember
It
there being
was,
more
it's just that
centered
there
things,
were-
more
It
things that would
is.
float
No,
up over
that was
over
actually
stuff.
a big difference in Civ 5 was they actually took that stuff out of the center and did bring it to the
And-
edges,
yeah.
which was actually a huge improvement given how you actually play Civilization.
I think it is more. Oh,
The,
sorry.
the difference is that those elements were just much bolder, had more padding, had much more definition
Yep.
in Civ 5. It took up
This UI feels like it's ashamed to be in the game, but it's the
Civ
way that you
5
interact with the game.
Yeah. Civ 5 struck a great balance of UI that was like both really like present and big, but also really selectively collapsible in a really intuitive way. Like I just think they just nailed all that stuff way, way,
It's
way
weird
more
that they
than
didn't
did
just
in
start with a retheme of that
Yeah.
and then add the extra, like change the tech tree to a tech web or whatever it is that you do. Was that even a new thing? The web.
yeah, the tech
web
web,
is
it's
new.
like a node in the center, and then it's like
I actually thought that was cool. That actually made me feel way more comfortable dealing with a tech tree than
I've
I
seen-
usually do.
I've seen people say that, and you know what's funny to me? And
Because I fucking hate tech trees. I'll say that. I despise them.
that's totally fair.
Because I always feel like I'm growing unidirectionally.
you're like locking yourself out of
yeah,
stuff.
so I can't be like, you know, I really want to pursue this branch. Functionally, I'm sure it's very similar to there just being six straight up shoots as opposed to one web.
Right.
I'm sure that the same opportunities are approximately available.
No, but I get what you're saying. It makes so what you're
choice paralysis is reduced in early
Yeah.
game for me with a
So-
web.
I
Interesting.
feel like I kind of philosophically agree with you. The thing that's tough for me in After Earth, Beyond Earth,
In Titan AE.
beyond our world, is that so it's been a while since it's been a long time since I played Alpha Centauri, and I don't really remember how I felt about this stuff, but I suspect I also felt differently just because I was a different person at the time in some degree, so I'm not going to bother directly comparing them. I'm just going to talk about this game mainly. Without the historical theme of Civilization, I just have no idea what I'm doing. Like,
Yeah.
it's a because with Civilization, it's a double effect of like a lifetime, basically a full lifetime, 25 years of playing Civilization games plus 30 years of being an alive human on this
Right.
planet.
You're like, I know what
who
pottery
knows
is.
what writing
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and physics are.
It's also
except
nice-
physics in this game is like it's like light speed something is mentioned in a quote, and I'm
that's-
like, okay, it's hard.
That could be useful.
It's not. This is
sounds
not
nice.
bad. This is not a criticism of the game. This is me knowing what it's like to feel like you do, Jake, when you're like, I started this and I don't really know what I'm doing.
Well-
because that's how I felt as well. Because I just don't know what I'm going for, and the web actually makes it harder for me because
Yeah.
I don't feel like there's an obvious path I can just set off on.
For me, I found the web easier as a person who didn't know anything because I was just like, I can just kind of just cruise around this thing and get a kind of sense of the various things that I'm going to have to do instead of having to feel like I'm reading one entire tree, then scrolling and reading the next tree. I can just kind of be like, okay, over here is kind of where this stuff feels like it is. Over here is where this kind of stuff is.
Yeah.
Well,
the thing is, okay, I got into a hole.
good try, Nick.
I'm going to say this one thing and then I will defer
That's
to you.
fine. I'm going to have a dumb tact on all of this.
That's what we want.
Just go ahead.
Yeah,
That's
why you're here.
looking forward to
Well,
it.
I mean, yeah.
I got into this.
Hold that thought.
I'm just gonna have to start a brand new game. One, I feel like I missed a huge chunk of the experience by Nick missing the thing that you described in terms of picking your faction and kind of getting that initial thing, because I really didn't feel like I had any grounding in anything when I started. I felt so lost. And
not
then,
knowing who I was and also not being
Yes.
able to just be like, oh, you're the Egyptians. Instead, it's like you are vaguely Mormon, but also like 15 other, just like, we're all just weird
right,
post-humans.
but I hadn't even looked at a list of them to see what the context
same.
was.
Anyway.
And so that combined with my kind of just fumbling with the tech tree to produce a state where basically I had been playing for a couple hours and I had nothing. I had like 4 cities, but like 3 military units in total, and they were all the basic one.
Yeah, that's
like
my playthrough as well.
I mean, it was a nightmare. And then I really like the quest system. Actually, I think that's really cool. I think it's really fun and a good addition to this thing. But and it reminds me of some of the kind of more narrative oriented stuff in Alpha Centauri. But when someone declared war on me, it was just a joke. Whereas usually the way I play Civ, I kind of play on like turtling autopilot, where I just kind of make sure my borders are defended, but other than that, I just go culture all the way. And it was hard for me to like consciously realize that I can't just do that in this game, because I don't know what culture autopilot looks like in Beyond Earth, right? So I have to like, if I want to do that, I have to learn what that even means. There just isn't an obvious, clear thing that I already know how to do. And so I just ran my faction into the ground basically and put myself in effectively an unwinnable state. So anyway, Nick, I want to hear what you have to say.
Based on previous Nick Breckon appearances, we're now going to wait for Nick to say something incredibly outlandish that in a year turns out to be the consensus on this game. Ready, go.
Looking forward to it.
Well, you could also add to that I will talk about a strategy game on this podcast, initially hate it, and then a year later it'll be my favorite game that I'm playing 100 hours of.
So I am personally suspicious of myself. Treating you right now. How's SimCity 2012 going for you?
Wait, I want to hear.
I think I talked about the SimCity expansion.
Why would you interrupt?
You like the SimCity
I love
expansion
the
a lot.
Yeah,
Why would you
And so
interrupt Nick Breckon in the middle of the sentence? I am personally suspicious of myself.
Oh my god.
I didn't know he was saying that. Anyway,
Oh my
continue,
God.
Nick.
Well, I am
please
personally
continue
suspicious
that
of
sentence.
myself.
Oh, I love
Nick
it.
Breckon.
I did say that.
Yeah, so why?
No, that
why,
is just like epitaph. Fucking good.
So
Like,
good.
That's how good it is.
So why are you suspicious of yourself?
Well, I mean, you can look at Civ 5 for an example, where I think I talked about it on this podcast as well, and probably didn't care for it initially, and then they released an expansion, and I really enjoyed it.
Was Gods and Kings the one that made you like it? Or the one before that?
What was it?
I think it was Gods and Kings, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Was that the only one?
In any case, there were enough minute adjustments to that game that I couldn't say particularly when it became a game that I enjoyed. Maybe it was just simply
Brave
a
New
factor
World.
of...
Brave New
Oh,
World.
yeah, Brave New World.
That was a
Yeah,
good
no,
one.
that was good.
Yeah. That was good.
And actually, one of the things that I like about Beyond Earth is something that expansion touched on, which was improving the diplomatic system, which I feel like there's still a lot of work to be done on this series, but they did add this thing now where you can exchange resources for favors. I don't know if you noticed, but like the AI will often
you can give money in exchange for open borders, or
it usually results in people just asking you for things and saying, "I'll get you later."
Was that not in
but
Vanilla Civ 5?
No.
Oh wow, because I feel like that is now an intrinsic part.
No, it's really cool.
Of the Civ 5 fabric.
Yeah.
Which this game is definitely the same fabric. Just
different
stuff painted on it.
So that's the thing that I so having played a lot of Civ lately, it's really apparent how much it just is.
It is quite apparent.
Down to the units, down to just everything. And a lot of the stuff that has been painted over, I just don't care for. Like I don't know.
Some of it I do.
Some of it I do, most of it I don't.
It seems like
the soundtrack, I'm not a big fan of.
See,
I don't know how
this is
you
what-
feel, Chris, but
yeah, no, it's just
and
whatever. It's
there
like
was so much
fine,
care put
you
into
know?
the Civ 5 soundtrack,
Yes,
and
I agree.
I was
Civ 5 soundtrack is
skeptical.
amazing.
It is amazing.
It is
Did they
really
update
good.
that with the DLC?
I don't remember.
Soundtrack?
Yeah, I think because
I
they
think
added
so.
factions, so I think they
Yeah,
added
yeah,
tracks
yeah.
for those
Okay,
factions.
fuck, they were-
Faction track.
This is what
Fraction track.
this is the other half. This is the other part of the themes thing I was saying before. Part of it is just
Yeah.
functional and like, oh, it's easier for me to play. But part of it is also that I know that not everyone feels out this way, and that's totally fine. But just for me, it's hard to theme something to be more amazing and impressive than like the history of our species.
Yeah.
Like it would be so hard for me to see just like someone's science fiction thing and be like, that's more awesome than the Hermitage and the Great Wall and like all of these things that Civ 5 is just like drenched in. I'm just like, that is always going to be cooler to me. Always going to be cooler to me. And there's just nothing I can do about that because I think it's so incredible.
So you've been constructing nothing but old Earth relics everywhere that you possibly can. You're like holding on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I need to just throw away that mentality for the purpose of playing this game because I was trying to do that at the beginning, and it's just not tenable because it's not what that game is, which is fine. I just need to get over it. But similarly with the soundtrack, like, of course, you're not going to have just like some guy make a sci-fi soundtrack that's for a strategy game
Here's
that's
the thing,
better
though.
than just like synthesizing the like.
Why doesn't Civ,
world of
why doesn't
music.
Yeah.
Beyond Earth's soundtrack just include the soundtrack from Earth? Like, why
Yeah, I
isn't
mean,
that just what it does? That would be awesome.
I think it
Or
would
at
be
least why
hard
doesn't
to,
it start there?
it would be tough to release that game. Yeah, it would have to go somewhere really interesting. I think it would feel creatively weird to.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You could choose to
And
be
the
the
things, like-
weird human history fundamentalists, and they just get the masterpiece theater music all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
This is
the
the
Apollo, whatever.
this is the,
capsule
the
that just
Aquarius
contains
and
the- yeah,
stuff.
sorry. Yeah.
it didn't occur to me until just this second, but this is actually the exact same way I felt about going from Anno 1404, otherwise known as Dawn of Discovery, to Anno 2070, I think, which is like that's the Anno series is an economic
Oh,
sim
yeah.
game that I love, and I had a long-running game with my friend Sophie, and we were working towards building like a majestic medieval cathedral. Right? We didn't do it because we didn't finish it because it's such an enormous task and it takes so long. But knowing that was our goal was just the most like overwhelming thing. You've ever visited a massive medieval Gothic cathedral? Like it's just the most awe-inspiring, to me anyway, just one of the most awe-inspiring things you can see with your eyes on this planet. And so like that was just, the feeling that like this is what we're working towards was just there's no way I was going to get that lived up to by like, here's our vision of like future planet where there's water and pods and things are like sci-fi pods. Like it's just no way it's ever going to be as cool. It's so hard for me to get over that. I'm realizing now.
I think it. Oh, sorry.
It's just an unfair expectation that I'm realizing I'm placing on this stuff.
I think that's really, really interesting, though, because it's something I've struggled with as a nerdo sci-fi fan. Like, it seems like it's really, really, really difficult to actually do world building in such a way that's consistent with the intricacies of sort of, obviously, human history. Like,
Well, it gives you like the emotional context of achievement, right?
Yeah,
Where like I
exactly.
looked at like in Mass Effect, that we like the Reavers are like 2 kilometers tall. Like and I was
massive.
exactly. I was like, yeah,
Okay, like
whatever.
That's
Right.
not a thing. You just made that up. You just said it was that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's like I argue like in development, argue with a lot of designers or artists about the scale of things, where it's like, well, if this environment is 1,000 units across versus 100 units across, that's 10 times as much work, and it's like, no, it's all fucking make believe, And I do that with
Yeah.
animation too, where it's like, well, like this guy has to like slap this other guy versus he has to like wind up and punch this guy through a wall. It's like it takes the same amount of time. Like the scale of the thing is meaningless because
yeah.
the environment in which it is being created is non-constrictive. It's all in your brain what the scope of something is, and I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest problem with sci-fi is just I can't be wowed by mass by like
That's why Alien
Yeah.
is cool.
I was gonna say that.
I played like 2 hours of Alien Isolation.
You did?
Yeah,
I finished it.
I'm like literally you're like on the
Had
outside
you
of the
finished
corn
it
maze.
last week yet? No, I think you had not yet.
No, I had not yet.
Okay.
I finished
Did it
it last
end-
Friday.
I wanna hear-
Were you satisfied?
Wait, hold on, Nick. Do you have any more?
Nah,
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because there's a couple things I do like specifically about this game that I
We'll go.
want to give them credit for. Well, I think you might disagree with this because you reacted when I started to mention it.
Sure.
I liked that the roving enemies were much more powerful
Okay, so
than Civ barbarians.
that is
I thought that was really cool.
That's a specific thing, but this is a personal thing where I don't like barbarians in Civ games. I don't really enjoy that particular mechanic, and so that being a huge focus of this game is just something that doesn't.
But I think
me at all.
I think
also the
barbarians
fact that
are
they're
not
just like
interesting though because they're so weak. They're just like bonuses you go out and collect for gold.
Yeah,
Whereas in
I
this
agree with
game,
that.
they make the planet feel hostile, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah, just pressing outward at all, you have to immediately build a fence or have units
I
out there
got-
clearing ways or something.
there-
I got an
Can I ask
early
a question?
I got an early quest to kill
No.
a sandworm or whatever they're called, siege worms.
I just hate that they're so generic. I don't know.
Yeah, it is pretty
I
generic.
really
yes.
just
the
dislike.
theme for me in this game actually, in general, feels fairly generic.
Yeah.
Which is maybe the thing I'm also partially.
Is there a
reacting to.
concept of indigenous creature or life form or tribe like not knowing how to do violence back to you that you can just squash like instantly? Like you just go, oh, you're.
Nah, they're just.
really
I
I
think
don't
they're
think
just
so. I think
generally.
they're all. I mean,
Because
there's
I think that's really that's like a. I
That'd be
think that's a really
interesting.
large like oversight, right? To
Yeah.
like universe expansion.
But there isn't
Because
just benign
Well, like
things.
if we went to like if we went to a planet and there was alien life there, the most interesting thing about there being alien life there is what are its methods of interaction? Does it even know what physical violence is?
right.
Because maybe they've never had to do it because they're operating on they don't have pain. You know, like because there aren't things in their world that actually damage their bodies. There's something on like a a mental level or whatever level.
Yeah,
Like, that's the
no.
thing that's really interesting about encountering a new species on a new planet is how do you experience being alive?
yeah.
The violence is happening in this room right
That
now.
was Jake
That's
throwing a cell
reactive,
phone and then me
Violence
deciding to
in the
drop
room.
my foot onto the coffee table.
Yeah, no, Beyond
in
Earth-
protest.
Beyond Earth definitely maps like
Like 50s sci-fi,
It's
we're
like-
all bipedal and have.
it's just
yeah.
like Earth
Little green men.
animals, basically. As far as just like these ones kind of rove and are hostile, these ones hide under the
Yeah,
ground and
they're
attack you.
animals. They're not like little
Yeah,
green men.
Yeah, I know, but just
They're
like,
insects.
like I had this idea for a
Insectoid,
game
basically.
a long time ago that was about being an abducted person on a space station, and you would get abducted every night, and you had a certain amount of time to be on this alien craft and just gather information about how they experienced being alive. Like, oh, like learning all of a sudden, oh, they can see. Like I didn't realize they could see. Like, okay, they definitely don't know what I'm saying. Do they know I'm even making noise?
Right.
And
Yeah.
just continually going back and learning about these sorts of things. And I think that's the most interesting thing about an alien interaction, right? Like, I don't know.
You read Solaris.
No.
You should do that.
Is it? I've seen
The actual Stanislaw Lem novel.
Right. I've never read it. I've seen the Tarkovsky movie, but
Yeah, the Tarkovsky movie captures it better than the not as good.
The Soderbergh one?
10 years ago.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, the Soderbergh one isn't terrible, I don't think. I mean, I'm a huge fan of this.
Is the book similar to the movie? I mean, like, are they just different works?
I mean, they're definitely different works around a very similar theme and the idea of alien life being utterly unknowable.
Mhm.
And, you know, I won't go too
Okay,
far
I'll
into
read it.
this.
I'd love it.
But I
that's
think
like
you
my
should definitely
favorite shit.
read. I
That's
think you should
like-
read the book.
that's
Yeah.
like- That's some like long term
It's-
sort of laying in like a field in my sleeping bag, imagining the universe for hours and hours.
Okay, you
Shit.
should definitely
That's the
read
stuff
this
I
because
really
I mean
think
Stanislaw
about.
Lem is I believe Polish author from the 60s. I mean, there's some sexism in the book that I was kind of like, oh great, it's from 1961.
Of course.
But
That 1961 types of sexism.
yeah, you know, 1961
Yeah, that, like,
sexism, where it's like,
that
oh, we're
50-year-old
hundreds of years in the
barrel-aged
future.
sexism. Yeah.
Yes, you know, it's a refined sexism.
I probably want a thing from Beyond Earth that is bad, but when they first announced it, I was like, oh god, there's going to be aliens or whatever. But at this point, the DLC that I think that I actually want is just they get to the other side of the planet and there is a sentient race there that just doesn't interface with you the exact same way that everyone from Civilization interfaces with you. Like, I just kind of want, like...
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus UI improvement.
Right, yeah, and a new line, but like, and we pasted the XCOM UI elements into the game,
Right.
but like, just something that it's frustrating. I am perpetually frustrated by the fact that it acts the way that Civilization game acts with none of the theme and historical cues that Civilization has,
Yeah.
but also they don't take advantage of that by introducing a bunch of
Right.
by introducing like one
That's the-
orthogonal element in that just totally
They don't take advantage of the fact that there's literally zero historical
There's
bias.
not,
for
there's
what
not
they
a
like.
disruptive
Yeah.
mechanic
So at this
in there
point,
to
I just
actually make
want
this
a weird
like,
alien who
yeah.
comes out and proposes a thing that I did not have a model for before, or something like just something that makes me have to go interface a weird thing with the human race. Like do something that is just like we're growing
Yeah.
the things that you have to do in a completely different place. But it feels like I haven't gotten far enough in to do that. But from what you guys are saying, it seems like I don't know. People will write in and tell us that we're wrong, or you will come through a time machine right now from 2 years in the future
Yeah.
and be like, Beyond Earth is fantastic.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so
Or
brilliant.
I mean,
I still feel the same way, but I can't stop playing it.
Oh god,
it's probably that.
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so I want to hear about Alien.
Oh yes, I will tell you all about it. Although I will just say very, very briefly, Sean, I think you should read Solaris because Stanislaw Lem is a scientist who thinks like a scientist but writes beautiful prose and about these concepts.
I think we might want to take
should
an
read
alien break and then talk about Alien.
Okay.
Oh, that's
By
true.
alien
We
break,
have-
I mean ad break.
We've probably
Ad
recorded
break.
almost an entire podcast on
Okay.
Yeah, and I have to pee.
Yeah, and we
I have to pee, readers.
P readers.
You're commanding them.
P.
P. God damn it.
Fuck. No, now they're doing that.
No, don't fuck.
Video
We would like to thank a new sponsor. I guess
An old favorite.
An old favorite. Back to the podcast, Audible, the leading audiobook website. They have over 150,000 titles to choose from: fiction, nonfiction, bestsellers, and maybe not Jake and Chris /fic, but everything in the creases.
Everything else, yeah.
And you can go to audiblepodcast.com/thumbs for a 30-day free trial and a free audiobook. And you can keep it even if you don't stick with the trial. And that's audiblepodcast.com/thumbs. And this week, I would recommend anything by Anthony Bourdain. I listened to Kitchen Confidential on Audible, and his stuff is so good. He talks about his industry, I think, in a way that is copacetic with the way we like to talk about ours. He's a really, really entertaining writer and he's a very evocative writer, and he reads his own work incredibly well.
So it's audiblepodcast.com/thumbs.
Exactly right. audiblepodcast.com/thumbs. Audible, thanks so much. Happy to have you back.
Video games.
We're also sponsored this week by Hulu Plus.
Hulu Plus is an online streaming service that you can use to watch about a bajillion trillion different TV shows and movies, including the Criterion Collection, those films, and a ton of TV shows, including, Sean,
The X-Files, which I am rewatching.
Oh man.
So am I.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
I'm on episode 7 right now.
I'm not that far yet. I mean, I am. The thing is, every night, if I don't want to go right to sleep and my eyes are a little tired from reading,
Yeah.
I can put on an X-File for 10 to 12 minutes and I go to sleep and I just pick it up again. And I'm reading it in these tiny little, or watching it in these tiny little chapters. And the X-Files is fucking good.
Oh, it's amazing.
I just burned through like 5 seasons.
So
Amazing.
if you
You've burned through all of the worthwhile parts.
Yeah,
yeah,
more.
you're doing it in a way
basically.
the opposite of what I'm doing. So if I
Yeah.
wanted to
Yeah.
sign up for Hulu Plus to
You
watch
go-
the X-Files.
yes, you'd go to huluplus.com/thumbs for a free 2-week trial that will give you access to their entire library.
That's a lot of X-Files you can burn
Well,
through
if you're
that
Nick
too.
Yeah.
Breckon,
It's
if you're
201
Nick Breckon,
episodes.
it's almost all 201 episodes. If you're Sean Vanaman, it's
One episode.
3.25 episodes in 2 weeks.
All right, huluplus.com/thumbs. Video games.
I feel really bad for getting. This is obviously off the ad read. I feel really bad for getting into the X-Files when you guys are getting into Twin Peaks and doing the podcast.
What?
I want to be there with you guys.
You hate Twin Peaks.
I know.
I know. I want to
But I love
suffer.
you guys. You guys are my friends.
It's fine.
Like, I hear you guys in here having so much fun doing the Twin Peaks cast. And then
Aw.
Zach comes out of the Kingdom of Loathing office and is all like,
Guys, I
man,
really love
I
that cast.
fucking love the Twin Peaks cast. You guys are just doing a great job. I love it. Can't wait for the next ep.
You know what though?
You want that pat on the back.
You know what podcast
I
I
just want
love?
to be in the fam. I want to be in the pool.
Dude.
Yeah.
I know what
wanna
podcast
swim
you
in the
love.
pool.
You know what podcast I fucking love, and it doesn't exist anymore, and it breaks my heart?
Dota Today.
Dota Today.
Oh.
Well, there's two reasons Dota Today doesn't exist, and I'm staring at one of them.
Oh.
And you are one of them.
No, the other one is Massive Chalice. The other one is Massive Chalice.
It's everyone's fault. but
Brad
yours.
has
I have
basically
been
worked
playing Massive Chalice.
Well, I feel like
You want to come over and do a fucking Dota Today with me?
If Idle Thumbs can do a $5, Dota Today can
That's
do
right.
the fucking Dota Today triple threat.
Sean doesn't remember
We can do that. We can do the
my
Dota Today
secret,
Quado.
the Quado.
Yeah,
I don't want to break it to him again.
Sean right now is Koko. I don't want to bring it up again.
What? Oh, Koko the Gorilla?
Yeah.
we don't want to
you don't
break you
remember
the terrible news.
You don't remember? I uninstalled Dota.
Yeah, remember?
Oh, you're right. But now I'm teaching your girlfriend to play Dota because you uninstalled.
Nick, Dota.
God, I
Dota.
love that you uninstalled
New Dota host.
Janelle.
Yeah.
I
my
know
God.
you
God.
uninstalled, and Janelle literally 12 hours after the podcast came out.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Can you teach me to play Dota? Nick won't do it. Like, of course.
Oh my
Janelle.
God.
Of course.
Oh, perfect.
That actually really would be
I could bring her
very
on.
much worth listening
I could be her
to.
fast chaperone.
I have a better
We
idea.
don't
How
need
about
you.
Janelle fucking brings herself on by herself as an empowered, alive human being who doesn't need you
Who has
or your
Dota?
uninstalled or installed Dota. Hard drive agnostic. She doesn't need your hard drive anymore.
This is not going on the cast.
Is it not?
That's an interesting
I don't know.
claim.
I
Nick.
actually have a story about my girlfriend and playing video games.
Please regale us
continue.
with this not patronizing story.
Oh God! What are you doing to me?
You did it to yourself. You did it to yourself, Nick. I want the readers to know that I have no idea what this story is, but I know Nick Breckon. I know him better than I.
Yeah, that wasn't like insider.
Yeah, that wasn't me like, that wasn't being like, tell the story you told me earlier, Nick. It's like, no, tell the story that I've already written in my head
Like
from
you're a
seeing you be
detective, and
alive.
I'm just like, like some guy.
Hang in the
Palm of his hand.
Okay, please continue.
So
I'm off mic. That's how
Good.
much I'm going to listen to this story.
So yeah, Janelle and I have been playing a lot of games lately, and sort of in between rewatching The Wire. And well, actually, this is worth mentioning just in general. What? What are you? What?
Okay, hold on. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. But you tell a story about your girlfriend like a guy who's telling the police about his missing girlfriend. Like you rub your face and you're like, I'm playing a lot of games and watching The Wire. And look, man.
Well, so here's
I don't
the
know,
thing.
man.
Here's the thing. I told her I was probably going to eventually tell the story on the podcast, and that it was a story that she's heard, but that I left things out of when I told her the
Oh
story.
no.
The context for this,
So we don't have informed consent from her.
yeah.
Please continue.
So, well, I do want to say something relevant to the podcast. This is bull. Why am I even trying? I'm digging myself out of a hole
What is
that
relevant to
is
the pod-
underneath the bear trap. The bear trap. I was just
he
gonna
was
say,
born
well,
with a
we've been playing things like.
Tiny little baby shovel.
Sorry, what do you mean relevant to the podcast?
I was just gonna talk about a game, but I don't know why.
No, please continue.
Well, we've been playing Diablo 3 on PlayStation 4.
I thought you were playing
which,
Diablo 2.
Well, I eventually said, all right, this is bullshit. Why aren't we just playing the good one? But actually, I do want to say that the PlayStation version of Diablo 3 is really good.
I've heard that. I've heard it's
I've
excellent.
played it.
Yeah.
It's weird to play a Diablo game that looks so generic, though. It doesn't look like a Diablo
So,
game.
I mean, the things that I don't like about it are still there.
yeah.
But then playing co-op works really well. Local co-op.
I've heard that, yeah.
It's really, really fun. If you like sort of put Diablo 3 on your shelf and said, I don't care about this game, maybe if you can play it in that context, it's worth checking out again. But yeah, tangentially related to that, another game we started playing was The Sims.
Oh,
Cool.
goodness. Yes.
So we were playing 3 because I owned 3.
Right.
And had some of the thousands of content
Right.
packs.
the Katy Perry one.
Yeah, you know.
H&M.
Mhm.
Good
yeah,
stuff.
God, that does exist.
I know.
Oh Lord.
You know, the good
Did you ever
stuff.
see the guy? God, I forget who it was. Somebody who wrote for like PC Zone or something, and he reviewed.
Yes.
He reviewed.
I think it was the
Oh,
H&M
yeah.
one.
I think it was the H&M review.
Yeah. That's why I think
Gosh,
I know
wish
it
I could remember
exists.
his name.
Yeah,
Everybody
okay.
knows what H&M. Like I know probably
Right.
Western European readers and us know what H&M is. It's like a clothing store.
Yeah.
They did an expansion pack for the Sims.
Right.
It's like IKEA.
And this
for
His
kids.
review
particular
is priceless.
It's like if I-
review
if it's-
of
yeah.
of the H&M
It's like
pack.
it's like a
Yeah.
like a
Oh, you saw this too,
a
Danielle?
more
Yes.
5-minute gap.
And it's
Yeah.
fucking fantastic.
Yeah, I couldn't even spoil it because I don't really recall what
People
is so amazing
people
about
should
it.
just go read
yeah, you
that.
should just Google H&M Pack Sims review.
PC Gamer, yeah.
But at any rate,
So good.
so we started playing The Sims, and we did the thing that you do, which is you make yourself,
Oh, no.
and then you.
Kids.
So here's the thing.
I know where this is going.
Maybe.
You think you know.
You think you know. You don't know.
Curveball.
All right.
No. So
All right.
so we made ourselves, and
very cute.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
I mean it's the thing. So
Playing
and
house.
we made the apartment.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And
the
the
apartment-
way that the Sims
Did you
work-
recreate your own apartment?
The apartment that you
we
live
did,
in.
yeah.
Nice.
And
Okay.
that is the thing that I like about the game. Actually, I like creating those
Yeah,
architectural spaces. The rest of the game, whatever. But
So, the human element.
the
that's
human
named
element,
after.
I couldn't care less about.
But I make my Patrick Bateman pad, and I'm like, this is cool.
Right. But so, playing with Janelle, I was kind of, contractually obligated to care about that part of the game, because it wasn't just like
No,
we're
you're
making.
not contractually obligated.
Well-
you're emotionally obligated.
Sure, whatever. However you want to put it, Sean. I don't know how, in my relationship, it's a piece of paper that we sign every day. You still good? All right, sign on the line. We'll try it another 5 days. See how it feels. Anyway, so for the first time, I actually played The Sims 3 for real. We made the space, we made our little avatars, and the way that The Sims 3 works is you choose a career from the outset, and you say, okay, I'm Nick. And we chose fantasy careers. We didn't choose, because you can actually be a video game developer, which is super gross. But we...
Fantasy life.
We chose fantasy careers, not the bullshit fantasy career that I have.
Right, exactly, yeah. We chose the careers that normal people
like
would...
astronaut and race car
Right,
driver.
yeah.
What did you choose?
So I chose to be a cook,
Okay, that's
and
cool.
Janelle chose to be a singer.
All right.
that's cool.
Those
Lovely.
both, those both seem fun.
Things
I
that
would
we
totally
could
go
have
over to your house if
potentially...
those are your real jobs.
Right, exactly. Right. But what I soon realized is that there was an expansion to the singing career, which expands the sing. So, like, as a singer, you can go out and do gigs, and you have to do all this involved, like, gameplay. Like, there's actual, like, meat to it. Whereas if you're just a cook, one of the vanilla
You just
things,
cook stuff.
You just
It sucks.
You get the car, and you go away, and it just says you earn like $50, and your boss
okay.
yelled at you, and then you come home. But then, more to the point, when you have a day job and the person that you're trying, so people who play The Sims probably know you can't, unless you start out married, which we didn't want to do because that's, again, not part of the contract yet. We wanted to, get in a relationship. So you have to sort of manufacture it artificially. You can't start just living together with somebody. You have to, make that happen with the sort of goofy mechanics of
Like you do.
Oh, you kissed the girl. You kissed her again. Now you can be a relationship.
Does the game know that you guys are romantically involved? Does it think
No,
that
you have to make that
it
happen.
thinks you guys. It starts you guys
They're
as
just two
roommates.
people, whatever.
You're roommates.
Yeah, you had. Yeah, right. Exactly. It categorizes you as a roommate,
Right.
and then
As it should.
Right, but we'd only supplied one bed, so it was a little awkward initially.
I like that your
It's-
your bias was outside of what the game systems were able to
Right.
comprehend. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, they're roommates with only one bed. Weird.
yeah, yeah,
It's like
Yeah.
the roommate is the grandma watching Three's Company.
right.
Right. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Exactly.
Or no,
yes.
is the neighbor, like, what's his face? The
Right.
landlord.
Well, so that actually happens in the game, though. It's weird because it assigns you. It constantly is trying to get you another roommate. And so it'll just say like, oh, what's his
Chad's cool.
Chad's coming over, and he just like walks in the door, and he's like, hey, Chad, and it's just
gotta
like,
freeze him
I'm
out.
like, I'm trying to kiss
Like,
this
no,
girl.
Chad.
Who's Chad? What is this? And so you have to like specifically lock Chad out of the apartment.
Oh my god!
And then they'll just throw.
That's exactly
Then
what
he
Nick
dies.
Breckon in real life would do.
Oh yeah, no, I
As opposed to being like,
kneecapped
hey,
him
look,
immediately.
you don't need a
Chad,
roommate.
Chad, look, we got this.
Look,
is,
Janelle and I
Just
are an
locks
item.
him out.
I know it's not official yet,
Right.
but Janelle and I are an item. Maybe don't combine anymore.
Yeah.
Like, we don't look from
Call
the
first,
roommate.
at least.
And Nick
It's
changed
actually
the locks.
Brecken's nightmare life is somebody just being like, I'm your roommate now, and him being like, I gotta lock him out of the house. So I gotta burn his shoes.
So Chad's
the actual moment happened where she went to the bathroom, Chad knocked on the door, I went to the door, locked it, and then Chad stood there for an hour.
Chad!
and then finally left, and then he came over when she wasn't there, and I wanted to kill him, but you can't in this game. So, in any case,
You should lock him in the bathroom.
Yeah,
You could have baby walled
I could have baby walled Chad.
Yeah.
Oh my god, you could have. Then she comes home and there's this sort of like this strange shuffling in the wall. It's like, isn't that the next door neighbor's apartment? I don't know. Did you have a closet here before?
Used to be a
What?
door here. What?
Right? Yeah. I've changed a few things.
There's nowhere to put my coat.
Yeah.
Just put it on the bed.
So I dealt with Chad pretty
Chad.
early, and everything was going fine. We got in a relationship, and then we started advancing our careers. And what I realized is that the sort of end game of the singing career is that Janelle was going out every night and doing these, long gigs, like 4 or 5 hour gigs in the park, singing. Everyone's going crazy. She's becoming like a rock star, and I'm just going to work, chopping tomatoes. In the middle of the day, and so we never overlapped.
Oh no!
Which meant that if you just let the simulation run, our relationship meter was sort of slowly going down.
Oh no!
But I wanted to make her a rock star because it's the game, and I was like, I'm just gonna. No, I was just kind of.
No!
It was just.
No!
I had like.
Sorry, my mistake.
In real life, she was not at home, and I was just playing the game kind of mindlessly.
Wait, this was just you the entire time?
Well, so I kind of took over. Anyway.
Oh my god! That's so much better.
So I had the day off from work, and I was just. So this is actually really sad.
In real life,
I had the day off from work in real life,
Okay.
and I was sitting there playing
Chopping
The Sims.
tomatoes.
This was like just after I had gotten off of Crunch, and I was just kind of mindlessly just playing this game and just leveling up our characters, basically.
Right.
And she wasn't home, and I kind of felt like I was cheating on the game playing. I figured, we're gonna play this together. And then after a day that I was like, no, I gotta game this. It was really stupid. It was a weird, like, gross thing that I was doing.
I gotta crush the Sims.
Yeah, I was just gonna. I gotta beat the game.
Max this.
What? So
simulacrum of my life.
yeah, so it was gross to begin with. So just to establish that. So
To
I'm
establish your self-awareness.
right.
Yeah.
But so she was becoming a rock star, and she was getting really, really famous, which actually was making me a little, like, in real life, a little jealous.
No, not the Nick Breckon I know.
Well, because she was going to come back and be like this amazing person.
And
I was
you
just
got
gonna be
dirty
this
shoes
douche.
from standing on the line all day.
So one thing that
Grease-covered pants.
Right. So Janelle really wants a dog in real life, and so I thought, okay, I'll get one thing that we could bond over in the game is like because there's a
Honey, you know what you've
You know that
really
thing you want
wanted?
in real life? I did nothing calorically. I spent no energy or time.
Well, I spent an
getting it
hour.
for you in the simulation.
Spend an hour.
it was a fake hour.
The computer spent an hour, Nick.
Please continue. Sorry.
I made the computer spend an hour.
So yeah, there's a dog
Sorry.
cat expansion, and I bought a dog, and my little
bought the
guy.
You bought a
in real
digital
life.
dog.
Whatever. I bought the digital dog, and I brought it home for digital Janelle. And,
to impress real Janelle.
right, but she wasn't home. She was at some
Wasn't it home in
crazy
real
like
life or
stadium
wasn't home
show
in the game?
In the
Okay.
game. Yeah, they're blending now.
Yeah.
So she was out at the stadium, and I was just at home with this dog, and it was just peeing all over everything, and I was like slapping it because there's like a negative reinforcement mechanic. So like you have to actually like chastise your dog actively, otherwise it just destroys all of your furniture, which costs money in the game.
You
And
also
I had
take her
worked
for a
up all
walk
this
to the
money, and I
park.
wasn't going to let the stupid digital dog ruin all my money that I gamed, clicking 1,000 times.
Chopping all those tomatoes.
So she comes home, and I'm just like slapping the dog, and the dog hates me, and the dog doesn't have a house because I'm out of money because I spent it, fixing all the
the
shit that the
dog.
dog broke. So it's a disaster. And also, like, digital Janelle actually didn't care about the dog. Like, she didn't care at all. Like, it was just like, I'm going to sleep. I'm tired.
Because you bought the dog for real Janelle.
Anyway. So the dog thing, it didn't help the relationship at all. Eventually, Janelle became like the highest possible. Like she is basically just like Katy Perry.
Right.
She has like stadium gigs.
Right.
And I was still a line cook, just coming home at 5 and just like flipping channels and just doing nothing.
Yeah.
And so it was around this time that I started to just let the simulation run because I wanted my guy to actually like, work up his career. And there's no way to game that in the way that the singing career, you can just like actually like actively make her better. I had to just kind of let time run and let my guy level up. And so I just let the sim run, and I hit like 5x time and went and made a sandwich. And by the time I got back, I was chatting up this girl in the lobby of our apartment building, and things were getting really heavy. And so I took my guy and I just forcefully put him back in the apartment. I was like, no, don't talk to whatever her name is. She's, no.
Lindsay.
Yeah, Lindsay. We'll call her Lindsay. And then I'd realized that I'd let so much time run that I'd actually, like, made out with this girl while I had not been in the room. And now, like, a little, like, relationship meter had started up for this, like, love triangle.
No.
Oh, no.
That's just running in the simulation. So now I have an option, right? I have to, like...
Wait, so can we pause for a second?
Yeah.
Real Janelle.
Yeah, still gone.
Been nowhere near.
Yeah, and have not touched the game. Doesn't know this is happening.
Perfect. Continue.
So now I actually feel really bad, you know, in like an affecting way, which is interesting. In real life, I actually feel horrible. Like this is, I really felt emotionally affected. I was just like a punch to the gut. I felt terrible. And so I was like looking up like game facts, like how do you break up relationships? Like how do you, you know, like just like furiously like Googling.
You were Google auto-completing hilarious things. Like you
yeah, right, yeah. How to unkiss, roll back, save, destroy neighbor, like defame woman relationship.
Oh my
God. You got a baby wall.
You got a baby wall that woman.
Baby wall.
So please continue. I want to hear what Nick Breckon did.
So Digital Janelle came home before I could find Lindsay and break up with her.
Oh no.
And if you play The Sims 3, you know there's this insane sort of web. When you click on a character, the way you interact with other characters is this web pops up. It's kind of like Battlefield or any of those other games where you have like a, you know, or Valve games, like TF2, where you can just say things, but then they sprout out into further branches, and they're just like 1,000 submenus because there's so many verbs in The Sims 3 now. You can just do everything. And one of those leaves was going to be, you know, end relationship. And the thing is, like, it's right next to, apologize or just like...
Oh, no.
It's right next to just the thing that would make all of this go away, like sleep with or just, you know... compliment or anything, but it's just right there, end relationship. And I was just... I misclicked.
Oh, no.
And you didn't misclick.
No, I did,
the
though.
The Sims dialogue selection tool is a Ouija board, and your hand went where it was going to go.
So I ended the relationship, and the animation that plays is so heartbreaking. It's you're talking, and then the other Sim just, like, starts crying, and just, it was, like, awful. I felt so bad.
Oh, no.
And then real Janelle came home. And she walked in and she said, "Oh, you're playing The Sims." And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Oh, that's cool." And she just walked by me. And now I had this like horrible secret because I didn't like, she wasn't going to sit down and play with me. And so I just felt like, oh my God, like I can't, there's no way to roll back. I didn't have a save, but prior to that, there was just nothing I could do. And I'd spent all of this time, like, working everybody up into their perfect, like...
Good news, you're a rock star for stadium shows.
Right.
Anyway.
But, like, the story of the digital version was, like, the deadbeat guy who is just, like, has a shitty job.
Right.
Yeah, you just stayed at home
around on the
garbage
side
all
while
over
she's...
yourself.
Yeah, right.
You were a desperate
she's out
housewife.
earning all the money.
Yeah,
yes, I was a
You
desperate
totally
housewife, essentially. And I don't know, the end of the story is that I couldn't bring myself to tell her what had actually happened. I couldn't tell her about the other girl.
Until now.
Until she hears this.
I just couldn't bring myself to say, like, there was this other girl, and, like, if I had seen... Oh, it was awful. It was heartbreaking. So anyway...
Oh my God.
It was kind of an anticlimactic story, really.
No.
It had a good end.
It went to a good
It
place.
landed where we needed it to land.
That was a lot more, like, touching.
There was
than
more.
I,
There was more Nick Breckon the human in that
Yes.
story than I think anybody expected.
I agree.
Yeah.
You didn't baby wall anybody.
No, that was
No.
really...
The story of Nick Breckon the Sim may have told us more about the real Nick Breckon than any story the real Nick Breckon has ever told us about himself.
Shockingly
Exactly right,
true.
Jake.
Yeah.
Couldn't have put it better
case.
myself. Wow.
somewhere a weird old book closes at the end of the Disney
the ribbon of the book sort of flutters.
Pages, yeah.
An
very
iris
touching.
hand and an iris is down. That was really sweet, Nick.
That's so touching.
You showed us that there might be a person in there somewhere.
Thanks, Sean.
So Danielle,
Yes.
Anyway, Alien.
you completed Alien Isolation. This concludes the Alien
chapter
break.
in my life. Yes.
What touching
Speaking of aliens,
digital
Oh God.
lesson did you learn
Oh,
in
recently.
Alien Isolation?
Oh
Yeah,
my
top
God.
that.
I don't think I can.
None of us can.
Oh, that's
honestly,
a-
Nick, thank you for that wonderful story.
Yeah, that was really
Thank you,
lovely.
Nick. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah.
Well, for Clem right now.
Congrats.
Congratulations. Giving you the full.
High fives.
That was a
right-
really great
right across
story.
the table.
Oh, are you okay?
I'm just deciding in my mind whether I'm going to be slapped tomorrow or
You know what, Nick?
Are you kidding? That was so
gently
much.
embrace.
Dog training verb will be used.
Yeah, that's what I'm imagining. I'm imagining the Sims version
A little
of me
Don't worry,
being
smack.
just
You can
like,
imagine what will happen, but you don't get to decide.
I think
It's true.
I think you come out of that story unimpeachable, personally.
yeah.
I'd say not
right.
unimpeachable,
The
but I
part where
would
he fast forwarded their lives to make a sandwich, then found himself making out with someone is maybe there's some peaching.
yeah, I would say there's like
There's peaching in there.
there's
Yeah.
Clinton-esque impeaching, but you still will hold office at the end of it.
Yeah.
And you'll go down in history as a decent president.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Things won't go so badly
Give
for
Nick
you.
weird feelings about this by playing the Clinton analogy. That's a little intense.
I would say he's the most Clintonian of all
That's
of us.
actual
Most Clintonian of all of us.
I love Clinton.
real
That's
life
fine.
infidelity on the presidential scale, whereas Nick actually literally did just make a sandwich when home from work and then a simulation kissed someone.
I could have done more. I feel I could have done more, but
I agree.
I think that's fair.
You were just trying to forward
Clinton
your
said.
career as a chef, and then it just happened. I don't know. She
Yeah.
was there.
Lindsay.
that Lindsay.
And then I meant to make up with you or like kiss you or whatever all the other buttons were there that would reset it according to you.
what someone's
but
going
you-
to do is they're going to go back and look at where end relationship is and tell me that it's nowhere near anything.
No. That was near slap
you're-
dog and
because
buy
I
new
am a
couch.
little-
You're
If
gonna
I'm
get
suspicious of
4chan
myself-
MS Paint
Yeah.
red
Oh,
line
man.
Yeah, if I'm
Send
suspicious of
you.
myself at all about that story, it is that moment. Because I can't actually remember. I know I did it accidentally, but it may have been really egregious. It may have just been I was falling asleep at the controls.
Right.
It may have just been your animal brain taking over.
Yeah.
Ouija. I like that
So
explanation.
Alien.
the best.
I have a question
Alien.
about the end of Alien Isolation without
Yes.
spoiling anything.
Yes.
Were you satisfied?
I have mixed feelings. I have very mixed feelings on the
After
ending.
20,000 hours.
Yes. Yeah. Not on the game as a whole, on the ending specifically.
But this, where did you clock in?
Oh god. 28-ish, 29-ish hours.
It's so long.
It's
28
way
is-
too
Single
long.
player
28
Way
is
too long.
29.
Yeah. Let's
28
call it
is-
29.
Let's call it 29. Hard, fast 29.
Yeah, let's call it 29.
Sub 30 hours.
Yeah, just about.
Game.
Barely. Yeah, somewhere in there.
It was actually good for you to tell me about how you played the game and how long the game is when I started playing the game this weekend, because what I did was I ran. I sprinted through the first
Yeah.
2 hours of the game.
It's a good
You
strategy,
can.
actually.
Yeah,
Like, I
you
was-
can
That
do
makes
that.
sense because you're not missing that much.
Well, my point,
Yeah.
like I could stop and look at an interesting thing.
Right.
Once I saw one, it was fine.
Yeah.
And there are moments like when the spaceship comes
But you're
by
not
the
in
window.
danger, really.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Well, my theory was I couldn't remember where I knew the game took place after the first Alien, but I didn't know what Ripley Jr. knew in her brain. So my theory was that I should run and make as much noise as possible until I see the alien, because my character doesn't know that the
Yeah.
alien
Ooh.
exists.
Okay.
She doesn't know that aliens are real. She doesn't know that the alien, there's anything
That's
that
true. That's a good point.
So I'm like, I just ran and sprinted and
works.
acted like a
That
psychopath.
would've
Like,
worked,
just
right?
get out of this fucking spaceship, because I was role playing as a person who wants to get the fuck off this spaceship.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Until old Axel
Until Frankie shows up.
gets
Well,
stuck
yeah.
with a needle.
Oh, Axel.
Okay, so Danielle, to go back to the ending,
Yes.
what was? I don't know if there's a way for you to talk about it that's satisfying without just like describing the plot at the end. But what is the nature of your ambivalence?
The nature of my ambivalence has to do with, again, without spoiling anything, mechanically speaking, the game jumps the shark a little bit at the very end.
Oh, okay.
There's a shark on the space station.
Just so you know, the aliens are really sharks. That's the big,
He zips out of his
Did
suit.
you guys ever read Peter Benchley's White Shark?
What? No.
It's really about aliens.
Peter Benchley's White Shark was a book that came out in the 90s. Peter Benchley wrote Jaws for our readers at home.
Oh, okay, that's how I know the name.
Yeah, and it was about a shark that becomes like an air breather, like a mudfish or whatever, like a lungfish, and what comes up onto the shore at night and eats people.
So you're saying shark scribe jumps shark?
Yes,
It's like the variety.
Whoa.
but not when you're in middle school.
Right.
When you're in middle school, that shit's awesome.
Yes.
I fucking loved it. And then sometimes I think about Peter Benchley's White
So
Shark.
that guy wasn't like
I think that's what it's
an
called.
incredible screenwriter who wrote a movie about sharks. He was a guy who fucking loved sharks who happened to write a great screenplay.
I don't know. Sometimes I think about Peter Benchley, and I wonder if he wrote a movie that caught because Steven Spielberg is a great director, and then realized that he could pay the rent writing shark fic.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Sure.
I have empathy for Peter Benchley.
Yeah, that's fine.
Anyway, continue.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, I think that's fair.
It jumps the white shark.
I think I think that's a fair description of Peter Benchley. So the one thing I will spoil slightly, which I don't think is a major spoiler, but if you're super grognardy about that stuff, spoiler. I just think this is like the best 8-hour game out of a 28-hour game that I've ever played in my life. Like, this is probably my game of the year, despite all the bullshit.
Sure,
Like, especially on the AAA side, like, I don't think I've played anything this good in 5 years. Like, this absolutely true to the fiction, this absolutely bold and risky and brash, and something that really feels... I watched a YouTube video today by Errant Signal that really described, I think, how I feel about this game. It sort of makes systemic the experience of being Ellen Ripley in the last hour of Alien. Like, it actually makes all the things that she does real systems that you can interact with, and it does it in such a
So this is like
beautiful
the through
way.
line of this episode, because Sean opened by talking about how the systems in Payday 2 evoke the sensation of
Point
heat
Break
or
and
Point
heat.
Break.
Like, but I think to do that, and I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I do think to do that, to walk away from a mission or walk away from a game or whatever, and say, yeah, that felt like the thing, you have to make systemic compromises that actually make the moment-to-moment aspect of the game worse.
Yeah.
Because I think...
Potentially, yeah.
That's how it always is.
You know what I mean? Like getting shut up, like I said, like getting
Yeah.
shut up by like 10 cops and then surviving.
That's
and
a
just,
specific
like,
phenomenon,
literally like
yeah.
time
Yeah.
crisising them into submission.
That's something that like
Was my- yeah.
that's really well said, because it feels like something that it's putting a phrase to a phenomenon that I feel like I recognized even as a kid.
Sure.
Where I would have a moment in a game and say like, "Oh my god, this is so evocative of X movie," or whatever
Dick
construct.
Tracy.
Yeah, and you don't really understand why, because it's just one moment in a game full of a bunch of shit that has nothing to do with that. But you love the game despite it, and it gets a 79 on Metacritic anyway.
I actually feel like this particular game, they nail it so well that that's not where they screw up. Like, even in making those systems, like, they actually are that good, as long as we're talking about just the xenomorph and just the hiding and just sort of those aspects.
I'm going to call you on Xenomorph, because
Oh, God.
we had someone point out...
Oh yeah,
I saw that actually in the thread.
I know.
Sorry. The creature,
You could just say the alien.
the alien. I called him Frankie throughout, and actually somebody in my stream, I streamed almost the entire game, and I streamed the ending for about 3 hours. I was told I was in the last 90 minutes of the game, and it was 3 hours, which is just about my experience with that game through the entire way through.
Right.
Somebody actually sort of registered as Frankie the Xenomorph, like, in my chat, and was,
Did you
being
find
funny and
that
cute.
that affected the tension, that lessened the tension at all for you?
When I called it
streaming?
Frankie?
No, well, no, I just mean
Streaming?
playing so much of it on a public stream.
It didn't, because this game so effectively got into my head and
Right.
made
You
me
were able
so
to just
tense.
sort of cast that aside.
Yeah, I was absolutely in it. And I was just sort of like talking to strangers as I was in this experience. But I was able to, maybe because I love aliens so much, maybe because
Sure.
I'm definitely willing to like suspend disbelief that much.
Totally.
That probably helped for sure. But what I was going to say was I think actually this could have been a close to perfect Alien game without the total bullshit that they also threw into the game. And the part that I was going to spoil, and this is the actual part I'll spoil, this isn't story specific, it's not going to ruin anybody's day, but there are face huggers in the game, later on in the game, that are just cheap, shitty, instant kills. You maybe sort of hear them coming. maybe you don't. It just absolutely sucks.
It's
So
so
it's
disappointing.
useless.
It throws
There's
the
no
mechanic
need
in at
for
the
it.
end
Like that thing.
Yeah.
That
It's the video
fact-
game thing.
That
Yeah.
fact
It's the video game thing,
is
exactly.
painfully disappointing in context of a 30-hour game.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Like, make the game 12 and take out the bullshit.
I completely
Fucking
agree.
A.
Yeah.
Nobody complains about a 12-hour game when it comes to length. Nobody.
Yeah.
No one. Make
I-
it 12
I'm
and
so
cut
there.
out the bullshit.
I'm
Assuming
so
it's
there.
not an MMO or a
like a
huge
JRPG
computer
or something.
RPG
Like
or
a
something.
single player
Portal 2
game.
A single
Yeah.
player
hours.
AAA
I know.
campaign.
Portal
Yeah.
2?
Portal 2 is like
Portal 2 is
9 hours?
It was so
Way
it felt so
less
much
than
longer
that.
than it needed to be. Portal 2, I thought it was really long.
Yeah.
I
Portal
think
2
it was
is
like 9 hours, 9 or 10 hours.
People are
Portal
claiming
1 is like 3.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Bioshock Infinite was like 12. 8
Yeah.
to 12, depending on your speed.
Yeah.
Nobody fucking cares.
I'm so with you.
It makes me so mad that there's a secret bullshit mechanic that shows up that is not.
and it's
it
total
does nothing
bullshit.
to help the story.
Yeah.
When your game is 30 hours, it's insane.
Yeah. I'm so there with you. I don't even think it really needed the androids or the other humans, to be honest
that
with you.
is actually the thing that's keeping me from playing more of it. Is
Yeah.
that I hit the level where there are just a million androids, and I just went, okay, I don't care about this.
It's
I don't
really
care about.
frustrating.
This isn't why
Yeah.
I'm not playing this to watch like robots with glowing red eyes walk around and come after. Like,
Yeah.
What?
I totally
What?
agree.
like why did they bother?
I totally agree.
So Danielle, you love this game in spite of itself,
Yes,
essentially.
I do.
It's not so much that like the whole thing coheres in a compromised way. It's that there's a great game that has a bunch of other shitty
Exactly.
games plastered onto it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's just a bunch of bullshit on top of this gleaming gem of
Yeah.
a wonderful, beautiful
sucks.
thing.
I have a question.
Basically. Yes.
You said this is your game of the year. This is your game of the half decade, is what you just said.
Pretty much, yeah.
Let's imagine.
AAA games.
Imagine for a second.
For AAA.
Imagine for a second.
Yes.
It's called Space Station,
yes.
and the monster that's hunting you is just like
A different monster.
Yeah.
a J.J. Abrams monster, and
Sure.
the space station looks like whatever, like
Mhm.
the space station in Sunshine, the Danny Boyle film.
Yes. It would still be
Same.
yes.
Nothing changes for you.
I should also preface this with I probably play 2 to 4 AAA games that I really love per year. So maybe I'm
That's
on
a
the
huge number.
right. I realize this.
That's
It's
gargantuan.
it's very low for a game journalist, but it's probably pretty high for
A
the
human
Idle
being.
Thumbs podcast or normal human beings. Yes. Like for example, I really love Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze
Yeah, I
this
know
year.
that.
That's
Yeah.
also on my game of the year list. But just the experience of actually feeling like I was in this fiction, even if it was a slightly different world, if it was a little bit more generic, so that would be fine. To actually feel like I'm being hunted, and then I'm able to thwart that threat.
I know, it's so funny to me
It's
because
incredible. to
playing
me.
the game, right? Like I played the game for a while, for a good long while, in a sitting this weekend, and I keep seeing things that get me as excited about
Yeah,
the game as I was talking about Payday.
sure.
But I see that in context of knowing there's going to be a whole bunch of bullshit encounters of things I'm not going to want to see in a game is going to be at my speed, let's say 25 hours,
Sure.
right? And that makes me hate the game so much. It's like
Yeah.
going on a date with somebody who's super engaging and super flirty and is then rude to the waitress. It's like, fuck
Yeah.
you. Like for presenting someone who I want to go on a second date with and is an asshole. Like,
Yeah.
like who doesn't have enough
It
self-awareness.
doesn't respect your time.
It doesn't respect the world of people. Like it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I think that's
It makes me hate
totally
it more
valid.
for the things that it's doing well because it's doing these other things so egregiously poor.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. It's
Alien
really
Isolation
disappointing.
Game of the Year
My-
2015 through
Mine,
20.
anyway. I'm sure I'll be the only one who actually thinks that. I'm like fine with that
That's all right.
too.
That's
you
all
know?
right.
I mean,
No,
it's
no.
fine.
I'm
There's
totally cool with
there's
it.
a home for you on GotY.cx.
Yeah,
Excellent.
gotta do
Yeah.
it this year.
Excellent. I want to talk super briefly about one other game.
Go for it.
again, super briefly, and
It's called Super Briefly.
It's called Super
an
Briefly.
it's a super
You
NES.
are a superhero in your briefs. Anyway,
Oh no!
I'm sorry.
But I would have actually believed that after a scapegoat and
What?
bore,
Oh, it's true.
full bore.
I'll make that. I will make that game one
That was
day.
really funny.
God, super briefly, you wear underwear.
Your character's name
outside
is
your
Ned
suit,
Briefly,
and,
also.
Yeah.
and you only have 10 seconds to complete each
And
level.
all your
Yeah, that's
and it has to be
perfect.
just a perfect superhero execution.
That's
And you
that's
just
what
do
I'll
it
make
kind
after
of
my
time
dad
to
joke
time.
game. That's exactly what I'm gonna make.
That would be a great game.
That sounds
Yeah.
really
It
good.
has like a Meat Boy esque.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You have to hit the corner
Yeah, hit that
perfectly.
3-point landing.
God, it's like if,
You gotta stick the landing, too.
if Meat Boy had a timer, but not a timer that counted up, a timer that counted down.
Right.
Yeah,
Super briefly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like a little.
Man, that could be. That could
Right, so
be
it's
a
like
good.
stop three
underpants
guys,
and a-
save
and
the
a cape.
person, and then
Yes.
like return the criminal to the police station or whatever it is. Like
Yeah,
return the money.
Exactly, but you have to do it in like 15 seconds.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Or different levels or different, time.
Yeah, different mix of challenge
You're
and mix
just
of time.
gonna-
Super briefly.
Super
You
briefly.
play as like
Copyright
Flash, you
Battlefront.
run around and then time on freezes.
Yeah, anything we talked about as a game idea on this podcast, we own
Right.
forever.
Yeah.
Unless you
Copyright.
make it, in which case, cool, do that.
It better be good.
Better not call it super briefly.
Yeah.
I mean, you can. It's
Then
you
we'll
don't
say
really care.
20.
Call it super time underroo.
That now you've said that is also copyrighted.
All right.
That wasn't as
So
good.
the actual
What game?
game,
What
super
game?
The
briefly.
actual game is called The Last Door, and it's an indie point-and-click adventure horror game. It's free to play. You play it in your browser. I will put a little content warning here for suicide. The game opens
Whoa.
up in a very
Yeah, that was
this is
a little content.
I actually
warning
feel like it's
for-
actually
Your
necessary.
voice
here.
Yeah.
lilted up on the word suicide in a way that it should never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Suicide?
it's just in case. I don't know. People can be touchy about that stuff, and I think that's more than fine. You can.
No. Okay. Yeah.
The game begins with your character in a sort of like attic. You're in a mansion. You're in a creepy Victorian mansion. In the 1890s.
Is this a Halloween game?
Yeah, I'm writing about it for Halloween. Yes.
Okay.
It's a horror sort of. People have called it Lovecraftian. I think it's a little bit more like Poe. It's a little more creepy, atmospheric murders of crows and such
Good.
than it is Cthulhu. But
I would
anyway.
prefer
Yeah, me too.
Poe to Lovecraft.
Me too,
Almost
personally. But the very first scene in the sort of prologue chapter is this character, and you pick up a rope, and you pick up something else, and eventually you sort of work it out that I am going to hang myself. That is exactly what I am doing in this little indie point-and-click adventure,
Holy fuck.
and that's what you do in the first 3 minutes of the game.
Wow.
Yep. And from there, it is a little bit more, it's sort of
Where did
traditional, I guess you could say.
what?
You play as another character who's trying to figure out sort of what the fuck happened in the
Oh,
first character's
all
life.
Ah.
You're walking around a mansion.
From there, it's more
That's
traditional.
why
It
I
turns
put
into
the
a zombie
content
game. and
warning.
you-
I didn't want to freak anybody out. That was the content
Well,
warning.
we probably got some of us.
Yeah. So,
But then you're playing a second character
Yes.
who's going through the backstory of the first character, trying
Yes.
to piece the whole thing together.
exactly. And it's the creepy
interesting.
mansion sort of stuff. It's a lot of sort of Halloween tropes, but I thought it was really interesting with sort of that opener, and then, okay, you're piecing together sort of what went wrong.
Did you complete it?
Not yet, no.
Do you find that the story is justifying the intense act at the beginning, or is it
So
sort of
far.
using it a little cheekishly?
I mean, it's using it a bit cheekishly since I'm really just sort of running around rooms and picking up items and sort of, getting story
Yeah.
content. It's not
Is it 2D?
mechanically amazing. It is 2D. It's 2D pixel art,
So it sort of looks a little bit like The Last Night or whatever.
It does actually look a little bit like The Last Night, only with Victorian creepy mansion instead of cyberpunk cop killer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's called what?
It is called The Last Door, and it's
The Last Night and the Last Door. Oh
I know.
my god. The last adventure game.
Super briefly, yes. I think it's worth playing.
Is it an itch.io?
No, actually, they host it on their own website, and I actually think it's just thelastdoor.com.
Okay.
I can check. But it's cool and interesting, and if you can stomach that sort of thing, if that doesn't bother you
Yeah.
in the first few minutes of the game, it's very much worth checking out.
For sure.
I know this is an infinite podcast, but I have a super briefly as well that I want
Yes.
to talk about really quickly.
It is thelastdoor.com.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Do you guys know have you been? If you guys follow Lucas Pope, who made Papers,
Yes.
Please?
Yes.
He's
Oh my
been
god, he's making
Oh, I was just thinking of that game.
Yeah, he's been posting
I didn't want to
little like gifs and clips, and I think he's maintaining a thread
there's-
on TigSource for this game called.
There is a video.
There's
full
a
10-minute
demo
video.
now. There's
yeah.
It's a game called Return of the Obra Dinn, which is the first thing that you notice about this game is that it looks like a Macintosh game from 1985
because it's only one color.
It's black
Yeah.
and white, like tiny
literal
pixel,
black and white, not grayscale.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
The pixels are either black or white. All of the dithering is pattern dither. Like it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
What
But it
what
is 3D rendering, though. I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah, well,
it's a
okay, yes.
it's a shader applied
It's
to...
running. It's a Unity game. It's a
yeah.
first-person game, full frame rate. You're inside of a space, you're exploring it. But were you to look at a screenshot, you would think that it was like a Cyan game before Myst, where all of their games were black and white and were just sort of these like line-drawn perspective 3D things. I had no idea what the game was about, and I still have not looked into any of it, other than I just kept seeing these little videos and GIFs that he was posting of like you're walking around this incredibly weirdly retro stylized pirate ship, and you'd see like a first person hand come out and it could open a door or do whatever. But he's developing it incredibly openly, where he's just, I guess, like this is version 0.4 internal development test that he put up, and I played through all of it, and it made me both want to know everything about the game and to not look up a single thing about this game until it's done.
Yeah.
But I will sort of describe the basic experience of the game, because it's worth going to play for yourself. There's a Mac Windows build, both available. Search for Return of the Obra Dinn, Obradinn. But it starts off with just some text on a screen and just really rich ambient sound that sounds like you're on a little boat next to a big boat, and you see some dialogue that seems like the character you're playing is talking to some sort of servant or assistant about how he's going to go up on this boat, and the guy should wait a few minutes and then put your box on the boat, and that's all that you know. Then you're up on the boat, you wander around. This dialogue also is just subtitles, like silent movie style
Right,
subtitles.
they cut to a black screen with the subtitles.
Yeah, so then you're walking around, and then it just cuts to full screen text saying, "Oh, I put it over here, sir." And then a box shows up. You open it with a really nice, weird, real time first person hand opens this box, and there's like a small thing that looks like a pocket watch that has a skull on it. And all that you can do inside of this demo, with no sense of puzzles or story or anything, is you're on a pirate ship and there's skeletons sort of strewn around the deck, and you walk up to one of them. Anytime you walk near a skeleton or near anything that is dead, the guy's hand holding the watch comes up, and if you click, some music plays, and like the screen does this weird black oily wipe out of the watch. It cuts to black, and then you hear dialogue, which you don't know what it is, but this is actually voiced. Like it has incredible Foley of just like, it sounds like a pirate storms a ship and kicks open a door. Then you hear a gunshot, and then it cuts back into the game, and you're in a moment frozen in time, which is the moment that skeleton died, and you exist inside of bullet time, like the Matrix.
Yeah.
In this weird Macintosh black and white, where suddenly it's just this crazy life-filled moment where these characters have full textures. Again, though, only in black and white pixel art. There's like just blood splattering out of someone. The gun is firing, and like all of the particles for it are just either pixels that are black or white. It's so crazy looking. But as you look at the like 4 or 5 different dead characters in this, you can sort of see that these moments frozen in time, like the guy who hits someone with like a metal iron or like a fireplace poker in this one. If I looked at this other body over here, that guy must have died first, because if I look out the window of the kitchen, you can see that guy frozen in time swinging his way up from the top of the ship down, which then makes you go up to the top of the ship where there's other stuff that you can see, and you can sort of piece together all this stuff, and it just starts to get into this story about someone who's trying to protect someone else who's sick on the ship, who I think killed themselves, but like you just start scraping the story, then a debug thing that says, sorry, this is all that's in this tech demo so far. You can probably definitively figure out the story of 2 crewmen and what's in the game, but there's nothing else left.
Yeah.
Like it brings you into these moments in time where it's frozen, and there's this music that's playing, and then when you have like 10 or 20 seconds left, the guy's hand comes back up and you can see the watch running out, and then when both hands hit 12 at the top again, it snaps you back out into the other world. So you only get one shot at looking at each of these bodies.
Oh, really? Okay.
I couldn't
tell that from watching the video.
I can't. I might have just.
That would be really cool
I might
if
have
that's the
made that
case.
up.
That actually makes it way more interesting.
But so you
to
can
me.
sort of open doors and look around and stuff, and you got to. And I don't even know what I'm supposed to know. Like,
I've always liked that.
The opening text says like find the logbook. I don't think you can even find the logbook in this build. I think it's more just like you have this one mechanic that shows you these just freeze frame dioramas, and you can whatever you find them, and it sort of you can piece the story together at the end. And I was like, what was that? That was crazy.
I hope it's time limited.
Yeah.
Did you ever God, they wouldn't let you do this now, but I think in high school, my teacher just everybody came in, sat down, and my teacher was gone. We were just waiting for him, and then he just ran in, dressed in crazy clothes, fired a cap gun into the air, and then ran out. And then he came back in 5 minutes. Everyone was just freaking out. And then he came back in and said, or I think it was a different teacher then came back in and said, okay, now describe, write down as a prompt, what you just saw. Which, it's that phenomenon. If that is the case, it's really cool. It's a cool thing to make a game out of.
Again. I don't feel like you can, but I can't remember because I just didn't ever feel the desire to.
It's really cool that he's doing something so different. Because if I've looked at his previous stuff,
like Papers, Please.
Well, wait, and his previous work, I think, was more along the lines of Papers, Please. It was 2D, very small.
Yeah, I was
just he did a game about newspapers, I think, and
I was incredibly surprised when I played this because when I'd seen the couple screenshots of the pirate ship, and I'm like, oh, cool, you're using this really limited aesthetic to maybe sort of hide any lack of skill in this, because I only ever knew his stuff from Papers, Please and other 2D stuff that looks like AGS or Game Maker.
Yeah.
But then the way that a hand reaches out and perfectly opens
really
a doorknob,
good.
or when you see these cheesy skeletons flashed back into their living form, the poses are just incredibly dynamic and the effects are really present, and there's textured detail that just it's oh whoa, this is real.
Yeah.
It's just real weird.
Yeah.
But it's totally worth playing through it. Also, there are silent video or commentary-less video playthroughs of the entire thing. Even I saw the reason I knew it was out is because Polygon's homepage had that video linked on its homepage.
But that's what I watched. Yeah.
There's a few different sites that have it, but you could just play it. Totally just look at it.
That's cool.
And then if you're me, you're not going to look at anything about this game again until it's done, because no way do I want to
spoil that.
I don't want to get into the middle ground between this is the concept realized enough to show someone, and then this is the full game. I don't want to know what's in between.
Yeah.
Even though I know he's going to be documenting all of it because he is. Anyway, I just downloaded that on a whim after watching part of that video, and it just
holy shit.
My brain exploded.
The thing you just described about, sort of seeing a crime scene or seeing something really sort of flash before your eyes, rather, it made me think I had to file a police report recently. I witnessed a crime. I witnessed a domestic incident on a bus the other week. It was
this is a different thing?
It was literally 2 days after
this,
the medical emergency on one bus. And it was really, it was upsetting and a terrible thing. But that happened. I had to describe what the guy was wearing and what he looked like and how tall he was and how tall the woman was and all this crazy stuff. And that just made me think of that. Shit, maybe that would make a cool game.
Yeah.
It'd be a cool thing to explore. Anyway.
Copyright Idle Thumbs.
Well, that was definitely not super brief, so I'm going to do one email, and then I think this is a mega. This is already a mega cast.
Yeah.
This is not even a question. This is just
Fivercast.
Some information.
Yes.
Chris Francis writes, "What's up, Thumbs? On last week's Hot Pod, when talking about a Chex Quest, Danielle briefly mentioned a game that Giant Bomb did a quick look of involving gummy bears or something. I wanted to let you know the game was called World Gone Sour, and it was about Sour Patch Kids.
That's right.
The developer sitting in on that quick look was Adam Boyes, who you may know from Sony PlayStation.
Oh.
Also, Method Man was in that game in FMV form. Cheers, Chris from Virginia."
Amazing.
Shit.
Method Man. All right, now I got to find this.
So if you have a question, write us at questions@idlethumbs.net.
Exactly right.
Yep.
Should we say the games we played or talked about?
People know them all.
Payday 2.
Civilization Beyond Earth.
Yeah.
Alien Isolation.
Sims 3, The Last Door, Return of the Obra Dinn, Due Process, and the film
World Gone Sour.
World Gone Sour.
Oh, yeah.
And All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yes.
Perfect.
Super brief.
Beautiful.
And super brief.
Super brief.
And the weirder follow-up whose name we've already forgotten.
Time Under Rue.
I think it was
Sounds about
super
right.
time
I think
under.
it's about
Super time
That
under
is
Rue.
time-honored Rue.
Yes.
Yeah, starring a kangaroo.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yes.
All right.
Copyright Disney.
Sequel.
Don
Thanks so much
Bluth.
for listening.
Thank
Steve and
you.
Rachel
He stole
feel better
moments.
soon. If people didn't know, Steve and
Oh, yeah,
Rachel
yeah.
were in
Oh,
a
yeah.
scooter accident
Yes, this was a few weeks
about a
ago.
month and a half ago,
Get better.
and busted up some bones, but both going to be okay.
Yep.
And Steve Gaynor and his lovely wife Rachel, we love you very much. I hope you guys feel better.
Get better.
Better, guys.
Well, you know, while you're home, just sit around. Rate us on iTunes.
Yeah, Steve saw me beat Alien
Good.
Isolation. He was in my
good.
stream.
Strong.
Like it's funny because we
Like a
ended
daisy.
the last podcast talking
We
about how it goes.
did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, talking about Five
Five-O.
Goes West?
Yeah.
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 And then we actually talked, Nick and I talked about Fievel extensively.
At length.
Afterwards.
Yeah.
We had
Well,
a Fievel conversation.
This is probably a good time to announce the Nick Breckon, Danielle Riendo Fievel podcast.
You know Yes.
what?
Fievel rewatch.
I would
rewatch.
record that.
I would
2
so
episodes
do
of
that.
Fievel
I would do that.
rewatch of
I would do
Fievel
it.
Two and done.
Tale and
Two
Fievel
and
Goes
done.
West.
Two and done.
No, you mean a 20 episode?
What would be great
in depth,
is if it had,
scene
like,
by scene
each
breakdown.
Episode, oh my god! Each episode has like 20,000 downloads because it's just Don Bluth sitting there refreshing.
Yeah,
Man, what if you guys do the Bluth
so
cast?
happy.
That is An American Tale,
Arrested
Five Goes
Development
West.
and-
All dogs go to
and the
heaven.
works
Oh,
of-
you meant like and
also-
Arrested Development.
Oh yeah,
and
no,
the works
fine.
of Don Bluth.
Okay, you're right. No, so
Oh, God.
episode 1, An American Tale. Episode 2, Arrested Development pilot. Episode 3, Five Goes West. Episode 4, Episode 2 of Arrested Development. Episode 5, Space Ace. Episode 6,
Arrested Development.
It's like
episode
Arrested
three.
Development.
I'm trying to think of like
All
I don't
dogs
know.
go to heaven.
All dogs go to heaven.
Oh,
It's, you
That
amazing.
movie freaked me out as a kid.
Yeah, but
There's a hell scene. It's like it's pretty biblical. There's
Actually,
fire and
All Dogs Go to
brimstone.
Heaven is such an important piece of work. Like I actually believe this.
Are you talking about the entire series? All Dogs Go to Heaven, like 1 through 7?
No, just the first one.
Is it
Everything that
Land
comes
Before
after that is
Time
fine.
him? Sorry, go ahead.
No, but
God, was
seriously, like I really think All Dogs Go to Heaven is very important because
I haven't seen it since I was
it
a
was
child. So what is
aesthetically
the?
it was aesthetically in line with everything that was coming out at that time. So it had a built-in audience based on the creators and based on like what people expected from an animated film, and it dealt with issues of death.
It's true.
Like
So
issues
so
of
did
death
Land
for
Before Time,
issues
too,
for
yeah.
death for a kid or an underdeveloped brain. Period are like I think those are like we don't talk about that shit ever. Do you guys read the New York Times Magazine?
I used to every week, and I've fallen off a bit recently.
So Chuck Klosterman does a bit called The Ethicist. Did you
oh
ever
yeah,
read
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Okay, so this week's Ethicist is about how Koko the gorilla's handlers told her that Robin Williams died, and then reported.
Oh, I saw this. I saw this article. Yeah.
Right, and then reported that she was upset. And the person who writes this question posits, is it ethically or morally okay to tell an animal that doesn't have a concept for these, doesn't have an emotional relationship with these concepts, that somebody that she met 13 years ago died? Because at worst, like...
At worst, it causes her grief.
It causes her
Yeah.
grief, and at best, we learn nothing.
Right.
And Klosterman's answer was sensational. Sensational. I thought it was very good. I can't remember any of it, but it was very good.
I'm waiting on the edge of my seat right now.
Find out
hanging
in
there.
episode 7 of the Bluth cast.
Yes.
The problem is it's not soundbiteable. Like every
Sure.
soundbite would be like a 1/10 slice of the pizza
Sure.
of what his answer was.
Which is fair enough because death is a rather touchy
A
subject.
10-slice pizza is also a tough slice pattern.
That's true, Lan Jake. Hi guys, we're having a 10-person LAN over here at my house, and Domino, I was just wondering if you could do every pizza. Like I know we're extra larges, but if you could do them in 10 slice, hello? Is that a hard pattern? I guess it is.
It is, right?
It's not a cubic. Yeah, it's fucking hard. I
Oh,
guess or
gross.
whatever.
Well, not to spoil the Bluth cast, but we also talked a little bit about The Land Before Time in our conversation where Fievel Goes West. We did the Bluth thing, and Land Before Time also really deftly and touchingly handles death for a young child. I don't know if you've watched it any time recently.
No, only when I was a kid, and I remember The Land Before Time when I was however old I was when that. I don't know.
6 or 7, probably.
Yeah, I was probably like 6, and like that destroyed me. And then I remember All Dogs Go to Heaven. So Land Before Time, I remember just being like overtly tragic.
Yes.
And then All Dogs Go to Heaven, I just remember being unsettled by it. It's not so much that it was like scary or like sad in the way Land Before Time was to me. I just found it like totally alien. I'm like, this isn't what a
All Dogs Go to Heaven?
This isn't the movie.
Here, I found the article, and I know this is like a big misuse of time because this isn't going on the podcast. But I want to write.
Oh, isn't it?
Yeah, I think maybe
it's not
is.
because it's long. I want to actually do want to read Klosterman's answer because I think it's fucking.
The entire thing?
It's not that long.
Okay.
But every part of it like turns on the parts of your brain that you like to have turned on.
All right,
Do you know what I mean?
Fair enough.
The sexual parts. I'm talking about a gorilla here.
I'm talking about a gorilla
All right.
who's heard that Robin Williams died.
It's the only way I can get off. Okay, I don't think this is just wrapping up the question. I don't think any of us can know if she was sad or not, but even if this news opens the possibility of making her unhappy, it seems cruel to bring this into her life. What moral purpose does it serve? Says Rita Long from Oakland, California. Let's start by looking at this from a slightly wider angle. What is the moral purpose of talking to a gorilla about anything? What's the ethical justification for teaching Koko sign language and trying to communicate human ideas that have no bearing on her life? The best possible answer to that question is that we might learn something that will amplify our understanding of both apes and of ourselves. We are not talking to this gorilla to make idle conversation. We are communicating with this gorilla to learn about consciousness, and if Koko were authentically saddened by the news of Robin Williams' suicide, we would learn a great deal. Koko met Robin Williams only once, and since an ape can't comprehend the concept of celebrity, that meeting should be no more intrinsically meaningful than any one-time interaction Koko shared with anyone else. It's not as if Koko sits around constantly rewatching Moscow on the Hudson. So if Koko is still impacted by the 2001 meeting in the year 2014, it would suggest something pretty profound about ape consciousness. I mean, can gorillas vividly recall and contextualize every interaction they experience? Do gorillas feel empathy for all mammals equally? Do gorillas have the ability to sense and mentally catalog specific interactions with special individuals? And did Robin Williams fall into that class? Do gorillas simply want to please their human masters and reflexively display whatever emotion they assume is expected? Can gorillas comprehend what death is? Do they understand that they too will die, and that death, though natural, justifies sadness? If any of these questions could be irrefutably affirmed, everything we think about gorillas would need to be re-examined, along with our entire relationship with all non-human mammals. So the moral question might not be, is it wrong to tell Koko about a human suicide if that information will make her sad? The moral question might be, if we tell Koko about a human suicide and her sadness is rational and authentic, what else are we obligated to tell her?
Wow.
So it goes on for a while. But the last paragraph is...
A list of the things we're obligated to tell her.
9/11 was an inside job, Koko.
Oh no!
Gamergate is about ethics and journalism.
Oh no!
So the last paragraph is, what ultimately makes this question impossible to answer definitively is a chasm we cannot traverse. As humans, we can only think about a gorilla's experience in human terms. Everything we imagine about Koko's worldview involves the imposition of human ideas and values upon a consciousness that is fundamentally alien to our own. Is it moral to tell a gorilla bad news? We may never really know, but we certainly won't know if we never try. It's fucking amazing.
Yep.
And I'm
That is
cutting
good.
out an amazing middle part. Like, it's really fucking good. I forget that guy's very good at that exact sort of thing.
Yeah, and he took it over for... Was it William Sapphire? No, that was...
I don't remember.
God, was it? William Sapphire was on language. Did he also do The Ethicist? I don't think he did. The guy who did The Ethicist died, and Klosterman took over.
And did we tell Koko about it? I'm sorry.
Oh my god. That was a fucking Danielle Riendeau two-hand tomahawk slam of a joke. Well played.
Well, you know.
Jake, what is it?
Oh, sorry, I'm an idiot.
You asked? Agreed. Hey.
Sorry.
Sometimes you open a door
Randy Cohen.
close the door.
Randy
Cohen.
Cohen previously wrote The Ethicist. He didn't die. He just stopped. I was getting
Koko fired
I was
him.
getting it confused.
Koko
Just
fired
some
him.
just
Yeah.
Koko
Oh,
threw
Koko says,
Tom
"Get
out.
out."
Ugly ethicist. Ugly. Randy, you have to go.
Amy.
What? She's just quoting that shit from that movie. She loves Congo, but you're fired.
What a movie.
What a world.